All right, my camera thing is doing something funky. Okay, now
Let
it's
me
all
open the chat. Studio chat.
good.
I can hear everyone. I just can't hear myself, so I'm going to have to see if I can find the sweet spot here. Maybe that's a bit better. Yeah. Okay. Let me have a look. I can hear okay anyway, so that's all right. Let me see if I can. Maybe that. Oh, all right. I can hear myself now, but maybe I need just a little bit. All right, let's try that. If everyone's happy with my sound, then so am I.
Yes, we are. We are. So
Sounds good.
when we're gonna do this initial section where we introduce the 8 artists, and I made some slides for that. I don't know if you got a chance to look at those, Hania, or not, but okay. So we thought we could divide that up. So like each person will take 2 artists to just introduce. So
Sure.
are there 2 artists that stand out for people? Like obviously I would like Michael. That's my only like essential. The others I'm more flexible. You guys?
Well, I'm open to whatever, but I probably shouldn't be the one to introduce Kendrick, since he's the artist I'm, least familiar with.
I'm happy to take Kendrick, but I wanted to see what you wanted, Hania. Did you?
Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, we're mainly, yeah, I would be good with Kendrick, Prince, The Who, yeah, the Beatles, probably less so Led Zeppelin and forgetting who else.
Dylan, you could do
Yeah,
Dylan.
less so. I don't mind. Whatever.
Yeah.
All right, Hania, you take Prince and The Who, and I'll take Kendrick and Michael, and then you guys can decide on the others.
Oh,
Mark, you take whatever you like, man.
I was going to tell you the same thing. We'll see how it goes.
Okay. So, just a review, I guess, of the structure. We're going to introduce ourselves. I guess I'll introduce myself, and then Mark, you'll introduce yourself. I mean, I'm just wondering because the way you said you're just gonna tie it into the last episode. So how much of a segue do you want?
No, I mean, we can. There will be a break,
Yeah.
between, like on YouTube, it'll be separate. I already posted part 1, right? But on Substack, I'll probably put the audio all together, so there can be a little interlude. But we can reintroduce ourselves. That's fine. Just do it the usual way, I'll give you a countdown, and then you just do the usual texting intro, introduce yourself. I'll introduce myself. The guests introduce themselves, and then back to you. You explain this is part 2 of our tournament.
Okay. Do you want me to like lead into the guest, or are they gonna say it?
Well, after you say,
I'm Tomek in St. Petersburg.
And I'm Mark Will in Taipei, and we're joined today by...
Okay, and then who's gonna go next? Hanya, you'll go next, okay?
Sure.
And then Craig. Okay, so then after we've gone through the 8 artists, I'll share a couple funny things that I found that are like comparisons between the artists, and then I'll go over scoring, and then we will spin the wheel. We'll spin the wheel for 2 artists, and then we'll start that discussion. And then spin the wheel, start the next discussion. Do that. Once we've got those, we won't be spinning anymore. So, and then we'll already kind of see where the stuff is. So, anything else, Mark?
just make sure you got the screen share set up, like one for the PowerPoint, one for the spinning wheel,
Yep.
like one separate window for each.
It's all
And it
good.
should be good. So you ready for the countdown?
I believe I am. Yes.
5, 4, 3.
Hello, all you textual deviants, and welcome to part 2 of this most exciting 64 to 2. My name is Tomek in St. Petersburg.
Take 2.
Yeah, take 2. All right. What am I going to call this? What is this?
Well, you called it 64 to 1 before.
64 to 1.
But it
Season
was
4,
also
episode 7, right?
It was also no, it's 6. It's
But
6.
last one was 6.
Yeah, and this is part 2 of 6. This is all one
Okay.
episode. And it,
Bun, can you just? It's fine. Okay. Thank you.
and it was April Madness last time, but now it has to be May Madness. So we had several working titles. Just go with one. Either 64 to 1 or this is the May Madness edition of season 4, episode 6.
All right. Let's try again. Let me blow my
5,
nose as well. My wife was insisting that I blow my nose.
4.
Hold on.
This is live, people.
This is real
YouTube
is this, right?
YouTube is watching this,
This is RootTube. All right.
and Riverside. All right, ready?
Yeah.
5, 4, 3.
Hello, all you textual deviants, and welcome back to Texting. This is 6421 Part 2 May Madness Edition. In the last episode, we took you from 64 artists to a final 8. And today, your favorite panel is here to reduce that 8 to a final king or queen, or they. My name is Tomek in St. Petersburg.
And I'm Mark Will in Taipei, and we're joined today by our special guests.
Hania from Warszawa, not Wrocław, Warszawa, Polska.
And I'm Craig. I'm calling from Dortmund, Germany.
Very good, very good. Welcome back, everybody. It's nice to see your beautiful faces. And listeners, thanks for tuning in. I'm sure you were infuriated by many of our decisions on the previous pod, most notably the great David Bowie going out to the Roots. Apologies to
And I'm wearing this shirt in protest.
exactly.
And Craig has one on too.
That's we do.
So
Yeah,
I've got a Ziggy Stardust style one.
yeah. And
Bowie, we're
I've
pouring
got
a little bit of
the
gin out
Heroes
for you.
area, the Heroes era.
Quite apt.
So
Yes.
many great artists were knocked out, and we have a final 8 to share with you.
By a coin toss.
It's true. The generational difference was apparent on many of these clashes. So let's see where that takes us today. We're going to start by reintroducing our 8 quarterfinalists, and I'm going to share my screen now. So let's do this. All right. Mark, can you talk while I walk us through? So as you can see here, we saw in the first section Prince go through, beating Joy Division in the round of 16. In the second round of 16, we saw Michael Jackson edging out Radiohead. In the third, we saw the Beatles beat Jay-Z, Hova. In the fourth section, we saw Kendrick Lamar defeat Neil Young. In the fifth, we saw the Rolling Stones beat Iggy Pop. In the sixth, The Who came out on top of Tom Waits. In the 7th, Bob Dylan over Roxy Music, and actually that was the 8th. So here's the bracket that we need to fill out in just a moment. Get hyped. All right. Our first quarterfinalist, Led Zeppelin.
Craig, you want to introduce them?
Sure. I don't know. Are they really from London, England? I think Planty and John Bonham are more from the Black Country, like around about Birmingham, Worcestershire kind of area. But anyway, mere pedantry. Arguably one of the most popular, most successful, let's call them rock bands of all time. Sadly, they keep, well, Jimmy Page keeps popping his head up with different variations and new things and stuff. Whereas I think the other three remaining members of the band have kind of let it lie a bit. But Jimmy Page just keeps kind of popping up with new remastered, unreleased versions of this and that. So maybe that's a bit of a negative thing. Genres: hard rock, blues rock, heavy metal. But I think you could add a whole bunch of stuff to this, whether that's folky, a folky element to it, a lot of acoustic stuff. But other than that, I think you've covered it quite nicely.
Next up, we have Prince.
Yeah, so Prince, hailing from Minneapolis, the most notable albums and one I was listening today, Purple Rain, Sign of the Times, 1999, and a few classic songs that we all know. Also, I Would Die For You, I was listening to that today, and If I Was Your Girlfriend, I'm really enjoying that.
Don't
Just a
forget
quick
Jack
note.
You Off.
Okay, yeah. Just a quick note. Many of our listeners who aren't watching on YouTube, we do have these little baseball card style vitals showing. But presenters, if you want to share some of that stuff, just keep in mind that people listening won't be able to see this.
Yeah, I was missing that connection. Prince left a legacy that involved funk, pop, and loads of sex appeal. Hailing from genres funk, pop, rock, R&B. And we have a fun fact here. Prince played 27 instruments on his debut album at age 19. So quite the talent.
And of course, he also wrote a lot of songs for other artists. Manic Monday by the Bangles. That was a big one for them. I didn't know this, surprisingly, until like 2 days ago, but he wrote Chaka Khan's big hit, I Feel For You. Did you know that? You probably knew that, Craig.
Yeah.
What else? What are some other ones that I'm forgetting?
Was it a song with Martika? Was it Toy Soldiers or one of her other hits?
Okay.
I'm going back to like the late 80s. Yeah, like late 80s, I think Martika was.
Didn't he write Sugar Walls for Sheena Easton?
Sheena Easton, yeah.
Yeah. Sugar Walls. That's a Prince song. I'm thinking of another one too. Oh, what is it? Another female artist. Anyway, amazing songwriter, performer, guitarist. Check out his solo on While My Guitar Gently Weeps at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony for George Harrison.
Of course, we're missing Nothing Compares to You.
Right.
Not really written for Sinead O'Connor, but probably the better known version.
Yeah, that was like a throwaway song for Prince, and then she makes it like a, epic top 10 hit. Yeah.
I didn't realize that was his.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
There is
and
you can find a version of him doing it. He does it as a duet
yes,
with Rosie Gaines. I guess that was one of his backing singers or someone connected to one of his numerous bands.
yeah, genius.
All right, let's move on to the third quarterfinalist, Michael Jackson. So we'll go through the vitals. He's from Gary, Indiana. Notable albums include Off the Wall, Thriller, Bad, Dangerous. I could name them all, really, but I'll stop there. Classic songs include Beat It, Thriller, Man in the Mirror, and Smooth Criminal. His breakout song as a solo artist was Don't Stop Till You Get Enough off the Off the Wall album. Obviously, he had a significant career with Jackson 5 going before that. Legacy, he set the gold standard for music videos, became the first like mainstream black artist on MTV. Hugely influential dancer, who obviously was inspired by other hugely influential dancers like Fred Astaire and James Brown. Genre, he's the self-anointed king of pop, so obviously pop would be his primary genre. R&B, soul, and he didn't like to incorporate hip-hop and rock elements as well. And I've chosen for my memorable line, Billie Jean is not my lover. She's just a girl who claims that I am the one, but the kid is not my son. He passed away in 2009, and the fun fact for MJ is that Thriller remains the best-selling album of all time. I think that might be disputed sometimes, but we'll go with that. Quarterfinalist 4, The Beatles.
Okay, I'll take them, and Craig can jump in and correct me when necessary. They're from Liverpool, England. Notable albums on our list: Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Abbey Road, Revolver, my personal favorite, the White Album, maybe that's my personal favorite, Rubber Soul, Magical Mystery Tour, Let It Be, Help, and on and on. Classic songs, just to name a few: Hey Jude, Yesterday, Let It Be. Their breakout song, we've got Love Me Do from 1962 listed here, but Please Please Me from 1963 really ignited Beatlemania. I'm not sure if that's true in the States. I think I Want to Hold Your Hand in 64 may have, in 64 rather than 63, may have been what really caused them to blow up in the States, but whatever, those were all released and re-released around the same time, so I guess we don't need to quibble about that too much. Their legacy says here they transformed pop music forever, and they were cultural revolutionaries of the 60s. Hard to argue with that. Their genres, rock, pop, psychedelic, I mean, they probably invented whole genres of popular music every
Do you think
time they
psychedelic is a
released
good
it.
genre descriptor?
Well, I mean,
know that
It's
they,
kind
like,
of early
dabbles.
psychedelic, I suppose. I would
yeah,
say.
I mean,
Other bands
Sgt.
took it in
Pepper.
different directions, I would say.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's not psychedelic in the sense
Kind of
that
had to start somewhere.
Pink Floyd's debut around the same time as Pepper came out.
Psychedelic-ish, then. How's that?
Yeah. Proto psychedelic. Psychedelic, baby. But sure. I mean, they were certainly aficionados of LSD and wrote music under the influence and were inspired by it, so why not?
Fair,
Memorable line mentioned here: all you need is love. That's from their psychedelic period. Years active, 1960 to 1970. That includes the days when they were playing
the
Hamburg,
Hamburg,
Germany. Yeah. And the Cavern Club in Liverpool before the first album came out in '63. Fun fact, they hold the record for the most number one hits on the Billboard Hot 120. And in fact, there's a compilation album called One, which is all of their number one hits.
It took them the longest time to really get that greatest hits album out. There was the red one and the blue one.
I remember those.
I think it was red and blue. Yeah, it was red and blue, right? But the one album was the kind of the best of.
Yeah. Well, they had a compilation called Past Masters. Maybe that's the red and the blue one, I think.
I remember we had that red and blue one. I know what you're talking about. I thought that was divided by years.
That was earlier. There was something called Yesterday and Today. I think that was the Butcher's album cover, right, with all those decapitated baby dolls and so on that got recalled. But yeah, the one album that was like that came out in like the 90s before the anthology in the mid 90s maybe, or I don't know, I may be confusing the dates. I think we may have a message in our chat here.
Oh, I think that's me.
I checked that one, yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting for me that they were only active for 10 years. I mean, just if you consider their influence and legacy, I don't know, I just would have assumed it was longer, like to do so much in 10 years. It's crazy.
Well, and that is an issue that will come up, I think, in our discussions. Like, how important is longevity? Does it matter, or is it more about quality of, the discography and maintenance of the legacy? Like, maybe, as Craig suggested, the refusal to leave the legacy alone can be like a mark against a great band like Led Zeppelin and possibly The Who as well.
Yeah, I mean, Kanye West. Sorry. Go ahead, Craig.
I saw a trailer for a new Beatles documentary on Netflix. I have no idea what it's going to be about. I mean, other than the name of the documentary, I think is just simply the Beatles, but there's no narration over it. It's just kind of a bunch of stuff. So I don't know what Netflix are doing or who's behind it, but it seems the bandwagon keeps on rolling.
I think, is this a Ron Howard?
No, production? That's another one. Eh?
Okay, yeah. So there's so
those
many.
Are the concerts they did in the States, like
Candlestick Park. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So there's that, and then of course there were the Get Back, Peter Jackson produced series of films as well. So
it goes on, and it just kind of keeps on coming.
Yeah, and some of us can't get enough of it. Some of us Beatleologists.
All right, moving on to quarterfinalist 5, Kendrick Lamar, heralding.
So yeah, I'll introduce him. Oh, okay. Wait, okay. I'll let
Bro, you did a fine a cappella performance before the show, so I think you're very much qualified.
Should I repeat it?
Why not?
Bitch, where you and I was walking. Now run the game, got the whole world talking King Kunta. Everybody want to cut the legs off him. Kunta, black man taking no losses. Thank you.
Very nice, very nice. Notable albums.
Week, by the way. Mark, you should tell everyone where you're playing.
We've got To Pimp a Butterfly, Damn, and Good Kid, Mad City. Classic songs, All Right, Humble, DNA, Money Trees, The Art of Peer Pressure. Breakout song for the mainstream was Swimming Pools, which was a unique song because it kind of had worked on two different layers. On the one hand, it was like unironically being used as like a drinking song at frat houses. On the other hand, it's like a pretty strong critique of alcoholism and the escape instinct into alcohol. His legacy, we've got him as the modern voice of Black consciousness who merges street narrative with philosophical depth. Genres, hip hop and West Coast rap in particular. I chose a memorable line from Blacker the Berry. So why did I weep when Trayvon Martin was in the street, when gangbanging made me kill a NIGGA blacker than me? Hypocrites. Years active 2003 to present. It's a long time. And I remember being introduced to him, before his breakout song by my students who knew him from his mixtapes and early albums, although, aren't as well known. And fun fact is that he's the first non-classical or non-jazz artist to win the Pulitzer Prize for music for his record Damn. So not that prizes mean so much, and we're going to have a Nobel laureate in a second anyway. But let's move on. To quarterfinalist 6, the Rolling Stones.
Craig, you want to take them?
Sure, the Rolling Stones from London, England. I think we might agree on this one. It's closer to London anyway. Notable albums, just going through some of the vitals here. Exile in Main Street, Sticky Fingers, Let It Bleed, and there are plenty more in the back catalogue. Classic songs, though. Sympathy for the Devil, Gimme Shelter, Paint It Black, Satisfaction, or I Can't Get No Satisfaction was a breakout song in 1965. Their last album was released last year, so quite some time they've been putting out material. There's how many left, Mark? 2 of the original members left?
It would just be Mick and Keith. That's right.
So
Charlie passed
a couple of
last
years ago.
a couple of years ago, and Bill Wyman had quit long before, and of course Brian Jones died in his swimming pool, maybe with some help.
Well, yes, absolutely. The world's longest running rock band here, according to our vitals. Blues infused swagger kings. I like that. That sums up quite nicely. Again, the genre rock and blues rock, I don't know. I think there's a bit more nuance in there than just those, but we'll take that as a nice starting point. Memorable line, you can't always get what you want, but you can try sometimes. And years active, 1962 to present. I think what's maybe missing here, just slightly, or blues rock, but I think if you listen to the really early Stones, you can hear my dog maybe in the background here, ticking away, but he's pausing the floor. The early albums are very much blues infused, Little Red Rooster, and there's a whole, that was their main influence, was the blues artists from the States. Fun fact, the famous tongue logo was inspired by the Hindu goddess Kali. Okay, that was new to me, but there's a lot of iconography you can relate to Stones with the tongue, but also the other album covers and things like that as well. It's pretty interesting fact. Mark, anything you want to add?
Well, most importantly, Craig and I played in a Stones cover band in Seoul, Korea.
I have been chatting on many, many occasions.
Yeah, circa 2009, if I have the date right.
And they're fun songs to play, I have to say.
And very, very popular with audiences whatever pub you happen to be rocking out in. I was
gonna say, like, what kind of soul crowd did that draw? Was it mainly expats?
I mean, yeah, but Koreans too. I mean, we played a lot of shows at Stompers in Itaewon, and in Hongdae there was a younger, college crowd. But once we started playing Sympathy for the Devil, everyone was
they get on
up
board,
for it. Yeah.
Quarterfinalist 7, we have The Who.
I'll present The Who, and guys, Craig and Mark, especially if you want to chime in anytime. So The Who are, going with the vitals, from London, England. some of their notable albums: Who's Next, Tommy, and Quadrophenia. The classic songs: Who Are You, Baba O'Reilly, Won't Get Fooled Again, and leaving a legacy as being masters of the rock opera, smashed instruments and eardrums alike. So a memorable line they had: "Hope I die before I get old," and they were active from 1964 to the present. And I saw they announced a farewell tour a couple days ago.
Another one. I saw that
Another
too.
one.
Yeah. I was like, enough already. You know?
They've been doing
Yeah.
that since the 80s.
Yeah, that's true.
But I would love to see it, but it doesn't look like they'll be coming to Phoenix, Arizona, where I might be, but it looks like they'll be hitting up other major US cities. And fun fact, their 1967 concert in Leeds is considered one of the best live albums ever, Live at Leeds. And just watching footage of them recently in their concerts, it's just phenomenal. It's just like, yeah.
It was also one
Electric.
of the loudest albums, one of the loudest recorded live concerts. It might have since passed, but I think this was I think it was a bit later than 67. It was maybe early 70s. I can't remember. 73, maybe. I can't remember, to be honest. But it was registered in the Guinness Book of Records as the loudest concert of all time since it might have.
What does that mean exactly? The speakers were just turned up really loud.
Decibels, like the decibel counter was off the charts.
You mean like they just had their speakers up really high?
It was as loud as it go. I mean, if we go Spinal Tap, it was 11 before Spinal Tap got it, right? So,
because I was permanently traumatized by a dubstep club night once, so I'm, yeah.
You and I both. Then
I don't want. Yeah, I don't like going places now that are just like too loud. I have to have earplugs just in case.
So Live at Leeds, it was either at the football stadium they played it or in a park. I forget which, but yeah, we can check that in.
And I went
Those
to
are your
Leeds
stomping
University,
grounds, right?
so-
Yeah. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
probably, do you know where they played?
I don't know, but I remember seeing some posters like about that event in Leeds. But
It was an outdoor venue, I'm pretty sure,
Yeah.
because I've seen footage from that. I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but I saw them in 2002 in Houston, and it was one of the greatest nights of my life. It was even, at so late a date in the history of the band. It was just amazing to see them. Townsend, even at that time, was just an exciting guitar player to watch. And they played all their classic hits. So probably, top 3, top 5 shows I've ever seen live.
And I'm glad Craig questioned the date on that, because GPT, our friend GPT, can make significant errors. So yeah, it was recorded in 1970 at the University of Leeds Refectory. So a little bit of trivia for those of you.
Well, if it was indoor, then it must have been spectacularly right loud,
All right, let's introduce our final quarterfinalists. Bob Dylan.
Dylan, like Prince, is from Minnesota.
Yeah, damn.
It says Duluth, Minnesota, whereas Prince is from Minneapolis. So whatever difference that makes, I'll leave to others. Notable
Duluthians.
albums. Yeah. I think there's a Gore Vidal novel called Duluth, so maybe it has some literary importance that I'm neglecting, but whatever. Notable albums, just to name a few: Highway 61 Revisited, Blonde on Blonde, Blood on the Tracks. Modern times, less so. I would put Love and Theft ahead of that.
That was me shouting out my
among these-
dad.
among these later works. Oh, he recommended that?
Remember
Or
in
he
his kind of
suggested that?
comment that he freaked out because he didn't know we were just giving our personal preferences, and I forwarded that message to you guys. And he's like, no modern, among.
Oh, I thought that was Joe. I thought that was Joe.
No, it was my dad.
Ah, okay. All right. Well, anyway, Love and Theft should probably be on that list. But, John Wesley Harding, I mean, so many great albums. And again, classic songs, just pick one among many. We've got here Like a Rolling Stone, Hurricane, The Times They Are A-Changin'. His breakout song, here it's listed as Blowing in the Wind. That made him popular among the folkies before they called him a Judas. That would have been 63. But I think his first album came out maybe the year before that. Legacy changed the role of lyrics in music, so much so that he won the Nobel Prize in Literature a few years back. And he, too, like the Beatles, shaped 20th century counterculture, whatever that means. A lot of ways to define that.
Did he refuse the Nobel, or
No, he accepted it. He didn't show up. Patti Smith did a dodgy performance of It's a Hard Rain's a Gonna Fall in his absence.
and he wrote a speech?
He wrote and recorded a speech, which is pretty good, but he was on tour at the time, and so he said, I'm not going to interrupt my tour to go to Sweden, so thanks, but you're going to have to carry on without me. Anyway, genres: folk, rock, Americana. Okay, I guess you can say that's apt. Country too, maybe. Memorable line among many: you don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. That's a good one. And it inspired the Weather Underground, in fact. Years active, 61 to present. That goes back to his days in the coffee houses of Greenwich Village. And maybe he played some coffee houses in Duluth, Minnesota as well. Fun fact, he used over 20 aliases, okay, including that of Lucky Wilbury in the Traveling Wilburys with George Harrison. Of the Beatles, Roy Orbison, Tom Petty, Jeff Lynne. He calls himself Jack Frost when he's producing. He loves to play with identity. I, as one of his songs would have.
Were the Traveling Wilburys good?
Yeah, I like them.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Did they record a lot or anything?
Yeah,
Dave Stewart was
they
they recorded at Dave Stewart's house, like Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics. I think that's where they all kind of got together, started jamming and just playing around. And it was, who was the drummer? The drummer was the other
Keltner,
Jim Keltner,
maybe.
So he was one of the Wrecking Crew, if my memory's right, or maybe played with Elvis as well. I mean,
he played with a lot of people. He's on a lot of people's records. I think George probably brought him along. He had done some George solo albums, I think.
And who doesn't like Tweeter and the Monkey Man?
And Devil's Radio and Handle Me with Care.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got some funky. I asked GPT to compare these 8 artists in some interesting ways, and then I pruned what it gave me, and I'm going to share just a couple things for your amusement. First, I'm going to call these like a primary identities. So we've got the innovators as Dylan, the Beatles, Kendrick, and Prince. The showmen as MJ, Prince, Zeppelin, and the Stones. The Poets as Dylan, Kendrick, Lennon, McCartney, and Townsend. Is that how you pronounce it? Townsend?
Hmm.
Any reactions to this, or should I move on?
I mean, Prince should be included among the innovators as well.
He is.
Oh yeah, okay, sure.
Maybe Showman.
He is as well. Yeah.
Right, okay. Both me and Mark are off the point here. But
I was thinking each person is listed only once, but that's clearly
to
not
be
the
fair,
case.
I'm not wearing my glasses, right? So there we go. I've got an excuse.
I mean, Zeppelin and the Stones are innovators too in the way that they, and you know, so are the Who. Like they
And so is
innovated
MJ.
the rock opera.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't have these artists in our top 8, I think, if they weren't all of these things
And
to some degree.
arguably, the Who's best known for their, well, let's say their early shows and their showmanship. You know, as Mark alluded to earlier about the trashing of the instruments and the, you know, all of that.
Yeah, that does seem like an omission. Okay, next up, we've got a kind of musical DNA. So in the blues rock and roll category, we've got Zeppelin, the Stones, and the Who. In folk protest, we've got Dylan as the predecessor, then leading on to the Beatles and Kendrick Lamar. And in funk R&B pop, we've got Prince and Michael Jackson, and then Kendrick Lamar also being a present day incarnation. Anything for this, or we?
So there's a direct line of descent from Dylan to Kendrick.
No, I think
that was interesting. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say it's direct. I'm just saying, like, if we talk about generations, like protest music, you could put Kendrick in there, I guess, and you could also put Dylan in there. So it's just doing that, I guess, in terms of generation.
I mean, the Beatles are basically a protest music band.
Where's the Beatles? Beatles aren't even on. Oh yeah, there are folk protests. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, so let's leave that one. It's kind of cringe. All right, this is kind of funny. I thought GPT gave me a lyrics themes matrix, so I'm sure I'll get some kind of reaction maybe out of you guys for this one. We've got the 8 artists that we're discussing.
We lost Craig.
Okay, and I think he's coming
notifications
back. He's
about
here.
that. Okay.
So
that might happen to me as well. Like during every live stream, I just get the black screen of death. So be prepared for it.
All right. So we've got 5 different themes, dominant themes of lyrics: love, sex, race identity, war, politics, fame, alienation, and spirituality. And then little check marks underneath for what applies to these respective artists. Any reaction to this matrix?
Well, all 8 take love and sex as an important theme. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And fame and alienation.
Love. How do you not talk about love? I mean, it's.
But this is specifically love and sex, you know, it's not just.
I would say I read it more as like love and or sex, but yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
Anything else?
But I mean, but look, you know, like as has often been pointed out, one reason that music is so infectious is that it has an erotic undercurrent, right? Like there's an erotic energy that I would argue all great music has. So
sure,
it's not surprising, right? It affects our bodies. It makes us move. It energizes our carnal selves.
Yeah, I'm trying to, as you were saying that, I'm trying to think of like an artist that wouldn't apply to, and I was struggling. So, I was thinking Bach.
Does Michael Jackson's "The Earth" song not come into the politics section somewhere then?
Absolutely, I think it should. Yeah. And
yeah,
he had a few like that. I mean,
and they don't care about us,
right?
They don't care about us.
Heal the world. Yeah, he definitely. So that seems like a poor choice. What about the spirituality one? What do you think about
And
the
the
Stones and the Who not being?
the Stones, you know, Gimme Shelter. Come on, that's not a war politics song.
What do you think about the spirituality section not including the Stones and the Who? Do you agree with that?
No, I don't. Especially not the Who. I mean, if anything, the Pete Townsend has like a messiah complex. He's always looking for some Christ-like figure, whether it's Tommy or the main character in Quadrophenia. What's his name? Is it Billy? Help me out
Jimmy?
there, Craig. Jimmy, yeah. Tommy, Jimmy, you know.
A lot of thought went into that, right? You know.
Yeah, there's always like a no, there's a you know, the Who wrote or Townsend wrote The Seeker. I've looked under chairs, looked under
Talks about
tables.
Timothy Leary in that as well.
Yeah.
No?
Tried to find the key to 50 million fables. They call me the seeker. I've been searching low and high. I won't get what I'm after till the day I die. I've asked Timothy
name checks
Leary.
Bobby Dylan as well, if I'm.
I've asked the Beatles. I've asked Timothy Leary.
I like how
I've
Fame
asked Bobby
Alienation
Dylan.
has checks all the way down too. All right, next up we've got if they were a mythical archetype. So we got
Okay.
Dylan as the prophet, MJ the moonwalker demigod. I like that one. Prince the trickster, Beatles the alchemists, Kendrick the oracle, Zeppelin the warlocks, Stones the outlaws, and the Who the rebels.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, obviously there's some like
Prince is a
overlap,
Gemini.
yeah.
Prince is a Gemini too, so he's got like the dual nature.
I mean, and prophet and oracle are like very similar.
Which is a trickster quality.
And Zeppelin and the Warlocks seems appropriate because they have all this like legendary imagery in their music.
Yeah. Well, even the symbols they're using, like on the four symbols.
Those are alchemical symbols, so there's an overlap there.
Right.
How would you define the difference between outlaws and rebels? Do you see a difference there?
No, that's pretty similar. But again, there's overlap with alchemists, warlocks. I mean, the Beatles could be magicians as well, which is how they define themselves on the Magical Mystery Tour album, you know.
I like MJ the demigod. I feel like I see him just kind of like floating around on his tippy toes, just dancing around and serving wine to young boys.
I thought it'd be more like the fairy godmother, but okay.
All right. We are fairly deep in without even getting to the competition aspect. So let's review the scoring for today. Mark and I have introduced a new scoring approach to today to make it a bit more nuanced and to
avoid coin tosses.
Yes. So it's Wilt Chamberlain, I believe, right? Holding up that 100
yes,
sign.
Sir. That was his 100-point game.
So for each round,
did LeBron ever do that? No.
Each of these attractive panelists will get 100 points to distribute as they see fit between both competitors. So you can go 99-1, you can go 100-0, you can go 50-50, you can go, I can show you how good I am in math. You can go like 44 and 56. Yo, I did that so well. You know, you get the idea.
You've been practicing.
I know. I was up all night, like drilling these.
Smooth.
Yeah. All right. So if I don't have any further objections, I'm going to pull up our bracket and share a different screen with you all. We're going to start our first quarterfinal. While I do that, one of you guys can talk and keep the audience entertained.
Hania, what did you enjoy of the Led Zeppelin stuff that you were listening to, since that was the last thing we talked about? What caught your ear?
I just really enjoyed it. Like I just felt like it just felt really like authentic in some way, and like I was saying about them and the warlocks, I could hear like this imagery that was reminding me a lot of like Tolkien and things like that. And I was just so curious about like where did these guys come from? Like what were they talking about, reading, etc. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's just I don't can't call to mind too many song names because I was listening to these albums like once or like for the first time a few times through, and I was just listening. But I really liked the first one that you guys recommended, Led Zeppelin 3 or 2, the album that was first noted. Anyways, so
I think that was
yeah.
3.
Yeah, but really, like I have a newfound appreciation. Makes me want to rewatch Freaks and Geeks because they reference Led Zeppelin a lot.
I'm sure our dad will be happy with us listening to Led Zeppelin because I know he is a fan. All right, we ready for the spin?
Yeah.
All right, first spin is gonna begin. All right, we've got Prince. So I'm gonna now eliminate him.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see who he's gonna go up against. Oh shit, son! Oh shit, son! Oh no! I don't like this lineup.
Oh,
okay. That's a tough one.
Very appropriate.
It is appropriate.
So unfair.
It is appropriate though that those two, who are often compared.
Mm-hmm. Well, as Chris Rock said, remember that old dispute about Michael Jackson and Prince? Prince won.
What was his argument? Why? Because he lived longer?
Because of all the it was well before MJ died. It was all the controversy about kids and so on.
All right, so we're going MJ versus Prince. If you guys don't mind, I want to start with a quick reaction to this matchup.
Eliminate MJ from the wheel before you forget.
Sure, I will. Okay, so
and then there were 6.
I want to respect Prince, and I like Prince, but I find his voice somewhat grating, I'm gonna say. So that's been an issue for me over the past.
I'm getting
week
triggered.
That's fine. So I find his voice not as appealing as MJ's. We talk about stage presence. For me, Michael, is the premier showman maybe of all time. Any genre. We're talking about dancing and just a spectacle, right? So obviously more iconic songs. Prince got great songs as well, but I wouldn't say they're as well known. I mean, you can go anywhere in the world and people are going to know MJ. Is that an argument? Not really, but it's something about his universal appeal. The fact that, you could hum one of his songs and...
Ladies and gents, I give you Kiss.
Yes, but again, I don't think Kiss is known by as many people. It's a great song. I'm just talking about in terms of popularity. I'm not saying it's a worse song. Yeah, for me, I just haven't spent as much time with Prince, so that's an obvious bias. But I feel like I have given multiple efforts to really becoming a Prince fan, and I know that it's one of those. It's also one of those things where maybe people tend to affiliate with one artist, and then they kind of build up a slight wall against the other artist. But I didn't want that to be the case. If that was the case subconsciously, I'm thinking a Blur Oasis or something, or Stones Beatles. I don't know how strong these rivalries are, but I got nothing against Prince. Respect him, but for me, it's a no contest. I mean, I'll be giving a lot of my points to MJ. Okay, I'll stop my little first statement.
Rebuttal.
Yeah, rebuttal or addition or whatever.
Craig, you want to start?
I think Blur and Oasis is just completely manufactured anyway, but okay, that's a side issue, right? So, but point taken. When was the last time Michael Jackson actually performed live? And how often did he perform? I mean, okay, I can't really answer that question, but what was your last memory of Michael Jackson live? I can't think of one, right? It was so long ago. My friend went to see him in Glasgow. This must have been in the early 90s, and I think Snap supported them. If you remember Snap, they had a really big song, and it was pretty bad. But I remember him telling me that was the support band. My friend was a big Michael Jackson fan. So he might have, a few shows, stadium shows after that. But yeah, as a live artist, there's a lot missing. I think Prince performed. He holds the record with a few other people for playing so many consecutive nights at the Wembley Arena, I think it is, or one of these venues in London. I think Bon Jovi and someone else is another one. So I'd take the live aspect of it. If you're talking about performers, playing live is one of the main aspects for it.
Interesting point on what you're saying is just, I'll let you continue, of course, but I just wanted to say that he actually, this film that came out, This Is It. Did you hear about that film? It's just interesting that you mentioned the Wembley performances, because he had a schedule of, I think, 30 shows he was about to do at Wembley, and he died in the rehearsal process. So they made a documentary of all the backstage footage of him preparing for this tour, and it was like I loved that documentary.
That's my last memory of Michael. Yeah.
He is struggling at that age. He's not in the best health, but he still sounds good, and he's dancing pretty well. But anyway, go on, please.
I'll pass it on to Mark.
Okay, so so there's the live performance aspect. I never saw either of these artists live myself, but I've seen footage of both of them, and I would just ask, what instrument did Michael play on stage?
His feet.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great dancer, great showman. I give him all of the credit for that.
His voice.
But and he's a vocalist. But I mean, Prince is also slaying the guitar while he's singing and dancing. And occasionally he'll even play keyboard or something else, some other instrument, so there's that. Also, how many songs did Michael write himself?
A lot.
Well, he's got credit on them. If you look at Thriller, just for one, he has the credit with Quincy Jones on that.
With Quincy Jones.
Yep.
Yeah. Who is also producing him, right? Whereas Prince is writing his own shit, and as we pointed out, multiple songs for other people which became hits. These are like his throwaways. It's like, I don't know if I'm going to record this. Here, you try it, and then it becomes a hit for someone else. And he, as we pointed out, he played all the instruments on his debut album, 27 instruments. Like, he did it all. I know Michael can't do that, right? Like, there's no comparison there in terms of
that level of musicality, or
this is like Stevie Wonder territory, Paul McCartney. Prince could do everything as composer, songwriter. And not just music, but lyrically, he's much more of a trailblazer and innovator and boundaries pusher, right? Like especially in the sexual taboo area of songwriting, right? So for me, if we're going to be vague about it. I'm going to give most of my 100 points to Prince, just because, you know, as I said when we did the MJ episode back in season 2 or whatever, I'm in this matchup, and it's interesting that we got these two head to head right out of the box. I'm Team Prince, like just always have been, always will be. Not to take away from MJ's showmanship or his singing and dancing, and you know, like his innovations too, from Off the Wall on,
or even the stuff
mean,
of the Jackson 5.
Yes, true, but you know, again, he's not writing and producing and performing all that himself. He's got a lot of important collaborators, which is fine, but it's a different level of genius, you know, when we're comparing him to Prince.
I'm gonna come back on the Michael Jackson writing credits. So his solo writing credits: Billie Jean, Beat It, Bad, The Way You Make Me Feel, Dirty Diana, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, Wanna Be Starting Something, Heal the World, Earth Song, They Don't Care About Us, Smooth Criminal. Co-written: Black or White, Remember the Time, We Are the Worlds, Jam, Will You Be There. So that's just
okay.
saying.
That's an impressive list of songs that he wrote by himself.
And he's very meticulous in the studio. Like,
I think
I agree with
because
you.
we never saw him playing anything. That there's something missing there. There's a disconnect there. It's not to say that he didn't do it, right? But it's just there's no physical evidence of him.
Yeah,
if we're comparing him to Prince as we are now.
I mean, I know that he did play around on the piano. Like, he definitely was like doing stuff on the piano, and he did stuff with like beatboxing with his voice, and I think he was very strict with people in terms of he was a total perfectionist. I mean, very, very rigorous in the studio. That's all I.
On the other hand, if you take away the element of Quincy Jones, what would he have been? You know, hypothetically speaking.
It's just a taste thing, though, for me, because like I differ from a lot of, and I think there is a huge section of MJ fans that favor his later catalog, and like that's me. Maybe that's because it's like one of those things that the albums that hit you when you're ready to listen to music, when you're ready to give music most of your attention, which, you know, for me was like, I don't know, 12 to 19 or something. So for me, I like my coming of age music was Dangerous and History, and I loved those albums so much, you know, that prefer them to the earlier stuff just because they felt more timely.
I remember when Bad came out, and I thought, I've heard all this before. And then after that, what was the album after that?
Dangerous.
Was it Dangerous? Okay. And it's like, sounds like Bad.
Not to me.
I mean, I know we focused on History, Disc 2. And that's, you know, there's an argument there that that was more innovative and exploratory. But I think during that period in the maybe mid to late 80s to early 90s, there wasn't much progression. It wasn't much, not that we should focus on progress, but by that I mean there wasn't like a lot of experimentation, let's put it that way. He wasn't doing anything new, really, to my ears. Of course, I wasn't like the biggest fan, so you know, I did like The Way You Make Me Feel. That came out around that time. I always liked that song. And you're saying he wrote that by himself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's a good piece of evidence in his favor.
Hania, are you gonna talk?
I'm just thinking about the later work and just that idea of progression, because for me, I always thought that his music and his imagery and his visuals and his music videos, everything was changing so much. In some ways, it was like obviously kind of sad because he didn't look sometimes as, I don't know, it just changed, but he became more like alien or something, but it just changed a lot. And then he did like Scream with Janet, and that was really strong. And there's just so many iconic music videos and like performances
Leave
that
Me
he did.
Alone. Leave Me Alone. That's a good one.
Yeah, and then They Don't Really Care About Us later, and
That's
I
good.
just think all together, everything that he released was just perfect. Was just
What's the
okay,
one
maybe not
Slash plays
everything,
guitar?
but
Slash plays guitar on one of those
Yeah.
later songs.
On that history, he's on the
Mhm.
history album, I think. And that's that's another thing that should be mentioned in relation to his showmanship, his innovations in the realm of music videos, right? Like that's
The
something,
13-minute version of Thriller, yeah.
right? Yeah,
Like the
that was
full-on
certainly
Vincent Price
yeah.
et al.
And who was the director of that? John Landis, right?
John Landis,
Yes,
right?
yeah. The guy who negligently allowed what's her name's father to have his head chopped off by a helicopter. But yeah,
Mark always has these
Jennifer Jason
tasty
Leigh. That's who it is. Vic Morrow, I want to say. That was during the filming of Twilight Zone. But yeah, anyway. Oh, a small Vietnamese kid also got killed. But yeah, same director.
Good car chases
of
in the
course.
Blues Brothers.
What's that? Oh, true. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, how about Prince's videos, though? I mean, Kiss.
By the way, Slash was on 6 Michael Jackson tracks.
All right.
Black or White, Give In To Me, DS, Morphine, Come Together, the cover of the Beatles, and Jam.
Yeah, Come Together's not a great cover.
I love it
version
but,
in my
but
opinion.
I understand why a Beatles fan,
it's not,
Beatles purist might.
But what about Prince's videos? You know, Raspberry Beret.
Great song. I love Raspberry
and
Beret.
and video. There's
I don't know
a really
it.
interesting video.
Yeah, I don't know them well enough.
Kiss. I remember when that came out. I was like, never seen this before or heard something like this before with the falsetto. It was almost like a joke. Like, is this for real? But then it's like, oh, actually, this is fucking amazing.
But
I respect that song.
The Tom Jones and Art of Noise cover of it also kind of relaunched a whole other fan base element to it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, it's kind of like with Beatles songs, right? Like other people they're such great songs that other people can cover them and they still sound good. It's not dependent on like one particular artist doing them.
Yeah, I mean, I see that could be like a pro and a con, because I feel like some songs they're only able to be performed by a certain artist, whereas like Beatles just kind of have just very good songwriting, but it's kind of like there's a sweetness sometimes to it, or like a sweet simplicity that allow it to be covered. And I would just say Michael's influence on dance, which I don't know how relevant this is, but it is relevant in some way.
Dance music or dance?
No, dancers. Like
choreography.
Every dancer today in like R&B is like making a nod to Michael. I mean, just the style, the dress. It's like it all. I feel like I just feel like the biggest cheers for someone like Usher, or it just comes when they do like MJ style movements. So
and he was doing it his whole life, right? Because he started with like that with the Jackson 5 with like those maybe Motown kind of moves and just like synchronized with a few guys, and then later he's incorporating hip hop and pop lock and
tap.
Yeah. And
he worked with a French mime.
Tutting, probably, maybe.
Yep.
I don't know. Right. I'm still a bit hung up. I would say Prince is as equally a good a live performer as Michael Jackson was. I would go that far to say it, at least in my humble.
I hear you. I think they're just. It's hard to compare because they're doing such different shows. It's like
the bar is very high. Let's put it that way. I mean, it's a very high bar.
Yeah.
Well, this is where the subjectivity of each voter comes into play. Like what's most important to you. To me, what's most important is songwriting and musicianship. You know, like that's more important to me than dancing and showmanship. But
Yeah.
that's maybe
Yeah,
that's
but I
just
grew up
me.
dancing, exactly. So
Yeah, so that being the case, you know, clearly I'm going to be
right,
more
sure,
interested in what Prince has to offer.
sure.
That's just
I feel you.
and as someone who plays guitar, you know, like he's a virtuoso. He's
Right.
incredible.
Should we vote?
Yeah, I'm ready.
So how do we do this then, Tom?
So you got 100. You got
orchestra?
100 points. You just allocate however many you want to each of those 100 to each artist.
And
do we
Mark has
write-
volunteered to be the mathematician.
I've
Okay,
got
right.
my phone here. I'll calculate once we get everyone's numbers.
All right,
Well,
should we
I
take?
was- I
Can
was
you
hoping
do it
that
all
we
in
had
your
to
head?
Type it in somewhere and do it.
Oh, no, I didn't. I couldn't do it in my head, but I thought you were going to be doing it all on paper.
I am.
Yeah, so that's why I was.
No, but I'm not going to trust myself. We got to be official about this.
Okay, no, that's true. That's true.
I mean, if you want to do it, go ahead. But
No.
I mean,
bro, it's
well,
all you,
here's
it's all you.
here's another question. Like, should we all be forced to write it down and then present it so that we're not influenced by others, or
No.
we
Well,
don't change?
I think we should write it. I think we can trust each other, but I think we should not listen to each other's numbers before we say them, right? So, like, we should all have our numbers ready before we announce them.
Yeah. It's...
Well, I'm ready.
Okay,
Hold on, 2 seconds. Let
Okay.
me think for a second. I didn't pre-plan this.
let me finish my chart here. I've got M, T, H, C. Okay, so we know who
This is only the first
giving
quarter
what
final here, right? We're
numbers.
kind of
It's intense. It's
we're-
intense.
deep
Yeah.
diving. All right.
All right, who's starting?
I can start.
You.
Okay, Hang has volunteered. Go ahead.
All right. I will go Prince 40, MJ 60.
Prince 40, MJ 60. Okay.
All right, I've got MJ at 75, Prince 25.
Okay. Craig.
Prince 60, MG 40.
Oh, so
Wow.
you and,
Me, reverse me.
Honestly,
Exactly.
that's what I, you know, it was I'm not copying.
I feel bad. I feel bad. I feel bad now.
I know what you've done. It's okay.
Did you do a? Oh, it's cold.
He's gone 90-10 here, right? He's gone balls out. You know?
It's worse than that.
Right. Do it, right?
Should I change? Should I
No,
change?
bro, you.
No,
you
All right.
just be you.
Well, for all the reasons I mentioned, you know, I've got Prince at 95, MJ at
95, you fucking dickhead.
5. I told you.
That's disrespect. All right, well, we'll see how it turns out.
No,
in the
you
future,
shouldn't look at it that way. It's respect for Prince, not disrespect for MJ. That's just a tribute
disrespectful,
to.
though.
No, it's
No, I don't
not.
see it that way.
All right.
All right, well then I'm gonna
Yeah, you're
I'm gonna
you're
cloak
gonna
my scores in the same language.
go ahead.
All right,
That's your
Prince
that's your
goes
right
through
as a
as an
that's
American.
your right. Well, did we add them? I don't know what the numbers add up to.
So Prince goes through, and let's spin for the second quarterfinal. MJ, I'm sorry. All right, Kendrick Lamar.
Oh no.
Oh no, everybody has to come up at some point, Hanya.
I don't know, was that
All right.
on a good way? I don't know. Was it, oh no, what was
All
it? I thought that was my line.
Kendrick against Bob Dylan. Damn, this is. Oof. Oof.
Spinner's spinning, man.
the
This is
prophet
like
and
a-
the oracle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
so
interesting,
says, so
yeah, I
says
do feel like-
ChatGPT. I mean, you know.
I do feel like there's some interesting parallels being made with the artists that are being chosen as juxtaposed.
Eliminate that so we don't repeat it.
Yes. Sorry. I'm looking at something different than you guys. So, okay.
Okay.
I'm ready to vote. I'm just fucking. All right, you guys talk.
Who?
All right, I'll tell you what I did since we last recorded. Because I wrote them down. I listened to several tracks from different albums, and the ones I wrote down anyway were "Sing About Me," "All Right," "Humble," and then the song that they sampled,
songs.
the Luther Vandross song. That's the only thing that makes it good is Luther Vandross is in it. So, if this world were mine, if I can read my writing.
Craig's a hater.
Yeah. There's okay. Well, hate's a harsh word, right? So if I tried it in different ways. I kind of had it on when I was walking the dog. I had it on when I was just kind of like doing other things. I tried to not preoccupy all my thoughts on why this wasn't really my cup of tea, right? So I just kind of took it. Thank you, Chester. My dog's barking here. So it gave me. I tried to think of it as objectively as I could. When I watched some of the videos, I was like, okay, these are quite interesting with that kind of black and white or a slightly kind of tinge look to the videos were more interesting to me than the music was. Yeah, his voice, Mark. Someone mentioned earlier, maybe it was Tom actually, about Prince's voice. You didn't like it or didn't really dig it? I could say the same with Kendrick Lamar. It was kind of high and whiny and kind of screechy, and I was not really what I expected. The more I looked into his catalog, or at least the stuff I listened to, so that I was like, oh, all right, great. There wasn't really a great voice behind it. Maybe I could have watched some live performances that might have made a difference. Lyrically, okay, they were quite interesting lyrics, but nothing I hadn't really thought of or seen or heard or read before, I suppose, in that sense. So I was unimpressed. I'll leave it at that.
Hania?
Don't believe
Yeah,
it.
I mean, I was just gonna say, like, speaking of live performances, I keep trying to find, but I can't find again, his Glastonbury 22 performance, Kendrick Lamar. And for me, it's I don't know why I'm so stuck on imagery like with Michael, but with Kendrick, I feel like he also has that artistry about him. And it's not just listening to his lyrics or just, even though those are compelling enough, but yeah, the music videos, and then that Glastonbury performance I'm talking about, he just progressively during the performance, I think it's like he's bleeding from a crown of thorns.
Yeah,
But it's
that's
like
right.
the illusion is really good, and around him his dancers they're so proud, and they're really like, he just has this profound like black pride, and he just does so many different things with his identity that I think are really interesting. Like even that Super Bowl performance, which I wasn't a huge fan of because I think it was kind of cold and calculated a bit for me, too symbolic, but still, like, it's just consistent throughout his career. He has like so much to say about Black identity and about struggling with it, and then his sense of history, and I just think he just expresses that in most of what he does, and it's really rich. That's why he has the Pulitzer Prize, because you can understand his lyrics in multiple senses, and I think that's really true for Kendrick. You can really interpret his work.
Yeah, for me, he came at a time where, hip hop was definitely the most influential genre for me from like 1995 to 2005. But at that point, I was like struggling to connect with newer artists. And it wasn't until Kendrick came about that I was like, oh, thank God, I can still listen to a modern rapper and like appreciate them the way I did the artists that I liked from the generation of like Biggie and Nas and Jay-Z and Tupac and so on. So yeah, lyrically, I don't know who's on his level if we're talking about hip hop. I mean, his kind of commitment to diverse themes, whether it is identity, whether it's life on the street, a lot of self-questioning in the line that I quoted earlier. Like he's like accusing himself of being a hypocrite because he maybe killed someone, whether that's in his persona or in real life, and still wants to be an activist. Very open about his insecurities, his struggles with depression, which you sometimes don't associate with hip hop in terms of like maybe hip hop is more just about this veneer of machismo and so on. He's talked about his issues with gay family members in a way that's quite brave in the hip hop community, and like questioning himself and his biases, his prejudices, and I love his range of voices, his range of flows within one song. He'll switch up his flow a few times. He really
switch uses his voice as an instrument.
Absolutely.
During the songs.
Very elaborate flows, very difficult.
Playing different characters with his voice as well.
Yes. Very a lot of so very ambitious music that, you know, at times is even like I'm like not even ready for the level of ambition that he's bringing in the sense of like musicality and poetry. Sometimes I just want the more like beats and rhymes, which he kind of came back to with Damn after was it To Pimp a Butterfly, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, he's definitely captured hip hop audience as far as like being their top icon. We saw how the public reacted to his feud with Drake. He kind of like came out as the undisputed champion, and interesting how he
champion
did
of
that.
What exactly, Tom?
Pardon?
Champion of what exactly?
Sure.
Is this not like high school bullshit? Is this not just like
I would say it's like as who's going to
nonsense?
be the spokesperson for like who's going to be the face of hip hop music, right?
Who cares?
Hip hop culture.
Who cares?
Ice Cube.
Well, why do you say who cares? I mean,
Well, what's Drake got to do with anything? I'm like, why should he have to compete with Drake? I mean, it's a bit. I don't know. Like, it seems all a bit kind of manufactured, and it's like he's dissing me on this, and I'm
well,
like,
but here's the thing: like Drake has a lot of hits, and
yeah, he releases a lot of music. I know that much, right?
Well, I guess I'm just trying to
what I
say,
know.
like Drake portrays a vision of hip hop in the mainstream that is, I would say, a lot more
Is it popular,
superficial,
poppy, charty
materialistic,
sounding?
cheap,
Cliched?
and like Kendrick wants hip hop
To be the opposite of that,
Yeah,
to be real.
Exactly, and
Okay.
to represent the culture, and so even in the
I
most
thought
famous song,
We
Not
really
Like
need
Us.
to hear all about it. I mean, it's the whole Blur Oasis thing all over again. Stones, Beatles, yada yada. I mean, it's kind of
Well,
like
just
high
in this
school
line,
stuff.
Not Like Us, right? Not Like Us. That was the hook on the most successful track in that battle. And like he was trying to say, like, this, you're not representing, like, to Drake, you're not representing like black culture. I mean, I don't know. It's quite compelling, I thought. I agree. I know what you're saying, Craig. Like, it's not like there is an element of like,
There's always room for
silliness.
drama and gossip and entertainment and show.
but at the same
business and
time, it
music
is
and
part
so
of
on.
hip hop culture. Going back all the way is like the idea of
Well,
like rappers
but-
going back and forth, like toasting,
True.
even in battle, in like dance,
Yeah, the
Yeah.
battle rap.
break
Yeah,
dancing.
I mean,
You know, it's like
fine, right? There's an element of competition, shall we say, in
Yeah.
that kind of way, right? Or
and
an
that is
element
part of hip hop. So
fine, right? That's I got no problem with that. I just find it a bit. Do we really need to focus on that? Because all the other stuff you mentioned
Yeah.
there is very worthy, and I totally respect what you're saying.
yeah,
And I just can't get into it for whatever reason. But that's not to take
Sure.
away from the way you've described it so eloquently. You almost convinced me to give it at least double digits at one point. So I was like, no, I'm joking, right? So I'm teasing. I'm just teasing.
I mean, I
I-
thought
I
the
don't-
winner.
Go on, Mike,
I thought
sorry.
the winner of that beef was Macklemore with his Palestine song, but you know, that's just me. That came out at the same time. While
I mean, I have two reactions to that. You know, like on the one hand, like I love what Macklemore did there. On the other hand, like Macklemore himself was ashamed when he got the Grammy at one point ahead of like Kendrick because he recognized that first of all, I think he thought Kendrick was a superior artist. And second, there's just like a layer of depth I think that you get with Kendrick that like Macklemore was like, yeah, maybe I'm not. I don't know. As a hip hop fan, you know, like you saying like Macklemore is like better than Kendrick.
I didn't say that.
I know,
said
but
in that
insinuating
particular
is like a tough take for me.
well, that particular week at that
Fair
time,
enough, man. I respect that song for sure. Heinz song.
yeah.
Right?
And what were they talking about? Some interpersonal bullshit.
And I'll give you credit on that. One of the criticisms that's been coming at Kendrick recently is like how quiet he's been on Palestine. So I think that's, if he is like a true social activist and voice of his generation, I think he could be speaking up for Palestine. I think
And in the meantime, let's not forget Dylan wrote Neighborhood Bully, which is like, you know, Israeli propaganda. So that's a negative for him in this aspect of the conversation.
So it's interesting that we're all focusing on Kendrick. I think it's because we all see.
Well, we just started there and
We're
see where it
starting,
goes.
right?
Sure, I guess I just say it's because we all kind of maybe appreciate Dylan's. We know Dylan is like, you know, who wants to
Interesting.
question
You
Dylan?
used the word poet or poetry earlier, describing Kendrick Lamar.
Absolutely.
Can you compare the two artists? Poetic? Well, I suppose you can, right? But
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
know. I don't know how much, though, if I'm being honest.
I mean,
you can up to a certain point.
It's hard to, it's, you know, like they're coming from different worlds though, you know. I mean, like Kendrick is a important black voice for our generation, you know. I mean, I don't know, you know, I could read a verse from that song that I linked you guys today. I don't know if it's interesting, but
Should we talk about Bob Dylan then?
sure.
Not to you can
No.
get that
Yeah.
later, but since we haven't really talked about him,
Please.
Hania?
Maybe I'm not the one to start the conversation.
Go on.
No, you should, because
should.
you were recently listening to what? Highway
Sure.
61?
Yeah, so my recent listening to Bob Dylan, I feel like corny saying it, but I had like a very personal experience with it. Just like listening to it, with everything that's going on in the world today, it's just like a breath of fresh air to listen to Bob Dylan, because I feel like it's so raw, and I used this earlier, but it really feels authentic, and it's speaking to me in a way that's so outside of the usual media that I consume every day willingly. So it's just and I really feel like just this sense of relaxation and calm, because I'm being carried by somebody who's telling just like a very personal, intimate story a lot of the time, and that's what I get out of Dylan, and that's what I've been getting out of it recently, listening to
Well,
it.
you were saying it's like he's telling you a story, or you're reading a novel, or one of his songs is like a short story or something.
Yeah, exactly. Multiple of them, like the Ballad of Mary Jane, a ballad of somebody. I don't know. I think he probably has multiple ballad songs that are called the Ballad of Somebody or Other, or Mr. Jones, maybe it was. And
Ballad of a Thin Man.
Yeah, and you just feel his like empathy there. He's it's so interesting how he gets out of himself and is exploring this person, and he does that all the time, and that's valuable, I think. So,
well, let's talk about some of his negatives. I mean, in terms of musicianship, he's not a great guitarist by any means.
He's been playing piano mostly in a lot of his more recent live.
Yeah,
tours, from what I've
and you know, he's kind of a hacky piano player. Is he a great harmonica player? I don't know. Is he a great singer? I mean,
Well,
I don't know.
that's
A
the
lot of
Marmite right there. I think Marmite. What
yeah, a lot
people,
of
if you ask people in general what they
yeah.
think about,
I mean,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think
comes to mind the most.
I personally think he is a great vocalist, let's say, as opposed to singer or crooner or whatever. But I understand that many people dislike his voice, just like they dislike, you know, Neil Young's voice, for example. And you know, the sound of the harmonica is grating. It's
Harsh.
shrill and harsh. On the other hand, you could say that's what gives it that authenticity, right? He's not auto-tuned. He's not like you. He's not overproduced. You know, he's
What you s-
raw.
what you see is
But
what
is
you
that even
get.
the contrast though? I mean, if you compare him to like and again, I kind of like his voice. I'm just saying you compare it to like a Lennon McCartney, that's not auto-tuned or overproduced, but it's just
Right.
naturally easier to listen to. So it's
Yeah.
not necessarily that the
Well,
opposite is
you could argue that some of the Beatles stuff is overproduced. I mean, it's not like George Martin was there. Quincy Jones, I don't think the influence was that strong, but he
okay. I
was
guess
the
I'm just
fifth
saying
Beatle.
it's an especially abrasive voice. It's not that it's it's not like if
Yeah, yeah,
everyone sang naturally, they would sound like Dylan.
right. And yes, true. But you know that again, that's a question of taste because that rawness is maybe what gives it some of that authenticity,
Absolutely,
you know. And
absolutely.
it's kind of like proto punk in a way, you know. Folk
Yep.
is kind of proto punk, so you
And I
know
might make a
that
similar argument about Kendrick, by the way, about his voice. But go on.
yeah. Well, that rawness is could be a selling point for some people, and I would include myself among such people. But you know, live he's hit or miss. I've seen Dylan live twice. Once was one of the best shows I've ever seen, and the other time was that was all right. So
He was
I'm trying to
phoning it.
give.
He was
I'm
phoning it
playing.
in, Mark. Was that the feeling?
Yeah, kind of. And it was like I don't even know what song he's playing. Oh, that's like a Rolling Stone, you know, 1 minute in. So uh yeah, I'm just playing devil's advocate
Right.
here. But yeah, it's nuanced. He's not to everyone's taste, but being what I am musically and otherwise, um, you know, he's more of role model or prototype for what I do than Kendrick would ever be. Although I appreciate Kendrick's literary qualities. I mean, these are the two of the 8 we started with. These are the two most literary, I guess,
Absolutely,
right?
yes. These are the
So that's
lyricists of our group. So yeah, it's very interesting these lineups we've got.
yeah.
Should
So
we? I'm either gonna have to pee now
vote
or
first. Let's
vote
vote.
Oh,
first. That was
well,
gonna be my
Yeah.
I
question.
have a
So if
wee
you
bit.
want to
I
let it
have a bit
going,
more to say.
so then
If
can we
anyone
do
else,
a little pause
sure.
so we don't have to cut off the? Okay, thanks.
Okay.
How do I get rid of this thing?
Howdy.
All right, I'm still here. I've been
Awesome.
bravely holding the fort.
Thank you.
So what I was going to
much
say,
better.
you and I could just have a chat about while the others get there.
Okay, go for
The
it.
little couple of minutes break. Hey, have you ever seen the film Dangerous Minds?
No. But I know what you're talking about. Michelle Pfeiffer, Coolio,
Michelle
all that.
Pfeiffer,
Yeah.
indeed, that's the one, right? The Gangster's Paradise,
Yes.
right? So it just kind of dawned on me that in that, I just had to check it online, but she Michelle Pfeiffer character, the teacher, tries to introduce Bob Dylan to, you know, this kind of inner city group of kids, and I couldn't remember what song it was they used, you know, as to kind of as a device, but it was Mr. Tambourine Man.
Okay.
And according to Google, I'm not sure what website this is exactly, but she uses the lyrics of Bob Dylan's Mr. Tambourine Man to teach symbolism and metaphor. Once this is achieved, she progresses on to Dylan Thomas's Do Not Gentle into that good night.
Nice, great poem.
It is, yeah. So I don't know. I think there's elements of Bob Dylan's music that they do try to bring into the mainstream from time to time. Obviously, he, as we were talking earlier about the Nobel Prize, he couldn't make it, right? So he's not, I wouldn't really say he's fame hungry in that sense. Maybe, you know, he is. He just can't be bothered, or whatever his thing is. But
I think I used one of his songs in high school for a presentation, an anti-war presentation.
Who's?
I mean, like Dylan.
Hmm.
Trying to think which it would have been one of the folk songs, but
Masters of War.
probably that one. Yeah, and I used Marvin Gaye as well. And anyway,
we were
Yeah.
talking about Dangerous Minds. And when she tries to introduce Bob Dylan to the kids, and they're like,
Oh,
this
the Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer, yeah.
Oh, what does she try to play them?
So that's what I was checking. It was like a Rolling Stone. No, Mr. Tambourine Man, excuse me.
Okay. And what was the students' reaction? I never saw
I
that.
think I saw it in the pictures, yes. It's a very, very long time ago. It's a classic from the archives. I think they're just like, yeah, what's this bullshit? And then, of course, they dig under the skin a little bit and kind of dig a bit deeper, and they're like, all right, that's some deep shit.
You know, I tried to turn high school students in the Houston barrio onto a Dylan song as well. It was Hurricane, actually. And they're like, what's this country shit? But then one student realized, hey, wait, that's the song from the movie Hurricane,
right?
with Will Smith, and then they got interested in it. But when
it was Denzel.
yes, well, it was Will Smith, wasn't it, or was it?
No,
It was Denzel.
he was Muhammad Ali,
Okay, right. Okay,
which was equally preposterous. But Denzel Washington's good. I like Denzel.
oh, Denzel's
Yeah.
amazing. One of my guilty pleasures is watching him as the Equalizer.
Equalizer movies
I know
are
that-
good, aren't they?
I know that's some fucking
It's like John Wick light, but you know, it's kind
yeah. It's really fun to see him in those roles.
3 was
But,
particularly enchanting.
Which one
3, the Equalizer 3, the one when he's
was
in
that? The
Italy.
Italian one?
Yeah, the Italian one.
Yeah.
I
He
found
fucks
a couple
them up.
quotes. I found a couple of quotes with both artists commenting on each other, which is interesting.
Oh,
Who?
So Dylan and Lamar.
Kendrick. Oh, interesting.
In a 2015 interview with The New Yorker, Dylan was asked about contemporary music and mentioned Kendrick Lamar, among others, as someone he admired. The guys who are doing it, great songwriting, are doing it in the rap world. Kendrick Lamar, his last record, To Pimp a Butterfly, was hard to beat.
Bowie loved it too. That was a big influence on Black Star.
And Kendrick has cited Dylan as an influence, particularly for his storytelling and social commentary. In a 2017 Rolling Stone interview, he compared his own work to Dylan's. I'm not on the outside looking in. I'm in there. I'm in the fire. Dylan was in the fire too, but he was observing it. I'm in it. Anyway,
No self-aggrandizing there.
Is that a blackface vocal imitation?
I don't know. I tried to be less egregious with
the
that
character,
example.
I think, Mark. You know?
I tried to be less
Okay.
egregious with that one.
I'm not
That
comfortable
was too
with
dangerous.
this.
That was too dangerous.
All right. So,
Let's vote.
Craig, you had more to say though, right?
Oh no, I was just going to add the dangerous minds bit, but since
Okay.
that was it. It was just
You
a
were
little
too
bit of
busy
an-
urinating. Right? That was the disrespect.
Too much information. I just thought it was interesting that, you know, kind of bringing it into the mainstream, and it's never really gone away, like that element of Dylan's work, the academic side of it, if you will, you know, where I'm not saying they can't do that with Kendrick Lamar's, but, you know, it's maybe Bob got there first.
Shall we vote?
Okay.
Okay.
Who's going first?
Craig, you go first. Set the bar. Everybody's scores are locked in. No changing.
Well, I'm gonna be generous here then, so I'm gonna give Kendrick Lamar 20, and I'm gonna give Bob Dylan 80.
Okay.
I did 2080 as well. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
I'm going to surprise you, and I've actually given Dylan the edge here. I'm going Dylan 55, Kendrick 45. Only because of how much material Dylan has produced. So I still think Kendrick has, hopefully, a lot more to come. And I'm curious to see where his career goes.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I had written down as well. It's 55 Dylan, 45 Lamar.
Interesting.
It's all like we're on the same vibe.
Dangerous minds think alike.
Indeed.
All right. Should we move on?
So what is our
Semifinal number
bracket?
3. Yeah.
Okay.
So we've got Prince against Dylan in one semifinal. Just so
Okay,
you know.
so that was the first bracket.
That was the first side, yeah.
Oh my God, the
Prince
Battle of
against Dylan.
Minnesota.
That's true. That's true. That's crazy. Minnesota, stand up.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Can you guys still see my spinner?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Let's spin this.
Spin that
motherfucker.
bitch.
Oh wait, it's not spin. Damn it. Oh wait, I know why. Okay. All right, here we go. Let's spin that bitch. All right, the Rolling Stones.
Mm-hmm.
Against the
Had
Beatles.
to be, didn't
of
it?
course, it did.
Oh man, the classic matchup. This is rigged, man.
It is rigged.
How can that be?
It is rigged.
This is
I put
bullshit.
some crazy
MJ and
algorithm.
Prince. MJ versus Prince, the poet or the two poets, and then Stones and Beatles.
See what
That's
happens
crazy.
when you go from the original way we did it with the numbers at the box kind of thing, and now you add some technology to it, and it's all gone to shit.
It's true.
And then that means it's going to be the Who and Led Zeppelin. They're the like second generation rivals. Okay, well,
I'm gonna put this out there. You're gonna have to try to convince me to give points to the Stones. So that's your job right now.
oh,
I mean, I'm
well,
gonna give
that's-
some. I'm just saying. Give me
That's
your-
easy.
give me
Easy
your pro
enough to
Stones
do.
arguments.
Easy enough to do. I mean, 20 years ago, well, 30 years ago, I would be completely, like, almost 100% in the Beatles camp. But over the years, things have leveled out more. Like, if we're making arguments for the Stones, you've got longevity, right? Like, they're still doing it, and I haven't seen them live recently, but I mean, Jagger can still put on a show, it looks like, and Keith can still play. Now they have Ronnie Wood. He's
How old
still
are they now?
alive and kicking. 80.
Must
Damn.
be, yeah. McCartney's the same age, I think.
81,
Yeah.
a
Mick
year
Jagger.
or two either side.
And McCartney is not sounding too good vocally.
Keith
but
Richards 81. Yeah, both 81.
yeah. But we're making arguments for the Stones. I mean, yes, the discography has more ups and downs, more peaks and valleys, but those peaks are pretty impressive. You know, though we mentioned several classic albums: Exile, Sticky Fingers, Let It Bleed, all canonical. Add to that Beggar's Banquet. I think your dad, I thought it was Joe that was sending those messages, but your dad mentioned Aftermath, and that's definitely a great album. Mick himself says like that was their first milestone. You can probably
Mark, is the
make
album
that.
Some Girls? Is that the album, or is it
Some
Tattoo
Girls?
You?
Some Girls is a great album
Tattoo
from the
You?
80s.
Mm.
Yeah. And I think I mentioned this before. If Doom and Gloom, which came out, you know, in the early aughts, if that had been released in the late 60s or the 70s, it would have been one of their hugest hits. That's a great song, great, you know, recording. So yeah, and it reminds me of some Black American R&B artist. When he first saw the Stones, he said they play like black dudes. He said they won't be as big as the Beatles, but they're gonna last longer. Those turned out to be prophetic
That
words.
sounds like a line from Back to the Future 2 or something like that, doesn't it? It's kind
Yeah.
of,
Why did he think they were going to last longer?
Because maybe they were like more authentically
a band.
roots oriented, or more they
But I mean, did he think? Was that in terms of how long the sound would be relevant, or
I think so. I think that's what he meant. Like they
not how long they would manage to stay together. Like because
you
of
could
personal
interpret it.
issues.
Yeah, you could interpret it that way. Yeah, it was musical and a musical observation that he was making for sure. Just like basically the way I interpret that is, you know, the Stones are more like they get it more so than the Beatles, right? Like the Beatles are rubber soul, but these guys are like more authentically soul. Like I mean, Lennon said something about the Stones, which made the same point. He's like, they're Dolly, not the real surrealists. You know, it's kind of like commercialized surrealism. It's like surrealism for the masses, and you could still make that argument about the Stones as well. Charlie Watts did. He said we're four or five blokes from England playing American music. You know. But they did it extremely well, you know.
Yeah, I just want
And
to
they're
say that
still doing
Mos
it.
Def was famous for saying, "You may dig on the Rolling Stones, but they ain't come up with that style on their own." Which he wasn't hating on the Stones. He just wanted, you know,
An observation, right?
Yeah. Well, or like Chuck D.
Wait till we get to
saying,
Led Zeppelin then, Tom, right?
Yeah, right. Talk about borrowers.
Lagging, right?
I mean, Chuck D said something similar about, you know, Elvis Presley being on a postage stamp, but you know, that's you could make that argument about
Mos Def talks about Elvis,
yeah, you can make that argument about Eminem too, right? Like, there's always some kind of appropriation going
in
on.
Our quarterfinals. No,
it was an upset in round 1 or 2. Yeah. But we're trying to make arguments for the Stones. Craig, I'll let you carry on with that.
I was going to say for if I divide it into 2 parts, just like a kind of black and white, if you like. So if we take the rock elements and the pop elements of both bands, the Beatles win on the pop front, I would say, hands down. If you take the other side of that, the rock side of it, I think the Stones win that easily, right? Just because as they got into their late 60s, early 70s groove, that kind of 4 or 5 album run where they were mixing around with a whole bunch of other sounds with like Exile and Sticky Fingers and whatnot. That element to it is one of the things that separates the two bands. The Beatles went another direction, obviously, whether it was the, what did you call it, Matt? The pre-psychedelic thing, right? But that kind of, they went in that direction, right? Thanks, right? They went in that way, and the wheels kind of fell off, and that was it, right? It was just kind of petering out. But I think as a quote-unquote rock band, the Stones probably win, at least in my opinion. They have bigger, rockier songs. If you go into a bar and you hear like "Gimme Shelter" or give me another one,
Sympathy for the Devil.
Sympathy for the Devil. Thanks, right? So, and you're just like, really, you're like, that's a proper rock song, right? I think they have a clear edge there.
Then again, you've got "I'm Down" from the Beatles. That's
you also have Helter Skelter
pretty solid,
from the Beatles,
pretty
right?
solid rocker, yeah. And I would also say
can do quite a lot. He was pretty good that way, right?
Yeah, he's pretty.
He's like, I think I'll write this one today. He's like, yeah, anything John can do, I can do better, right?
I mean, we have to remember, like, the Beatles actually gave the Stones their first hit, right? "I Want to Be Your Man,"
right?
You know. Right, so they wrote that song, and they're like, you guys can have this. I mean, the Beatles recorded it too with Ringo singing, but that was like a Prince moment for them. One of their throwaways became a hit for someone else,
not for Michael Jackson. To be fair,
so what do you mean?
I mean, Prince wasn't giving Michael Jackson his throwaways.
Oh, okay. Well.
Different
should have been nicer. Should have been nicer to him. What was I going to say about that? I mean, in terms of songwriting, the Stones became great songwriters later, right? It took them longer to develop their songwriting abilities, I would say. So the Beatles definitely led the way there. Whereas
let me ask
Stones,
you, if you don't mind,
the Stones in the beginning were just blues R&B imitators, you know.
A lot of covers.
Yeah, a lot of covers.
As the Beatles did as well, though, to be fair.
Yeah, yes.
What would you guess without actually listing them? If you were making a top 20 list of your favorite songs from both artists, how many do you think each would get?
I could give 9 and 10 if it helps.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering proportionally, though.
I mean, at least 100 for each, I would say.
No, I mean, in your top 20 of those two artists, how many do you think would be Beatles songs, and how many do you think would be?
You mean my favorite 20 songs of all time?
If you had to pick 20 songs,
no, just combined. You mean, Tom?
Yeah, combined. How many of those do you think would be Beatles songs, and how many would be Rolling Stones songs? If you had to pick 20 songs only.
It's hard to say. Probably more Beatles than Stones, but not by a lot. Not by a lot.
Yeah,
probably
I'm similar. I would say that.
Probably 12-8 or 13-7, something like that.
Right.
Fair.
I don't think you could go far wrong with that. Of course, there's going to be a certain element now where to counter what Mark was saying earlier about the Stones are still playing live. This could be seen as something of a bit of not like a parody act, but it's a bit really expensive tickets. People who go and see them don't really care. They don't really know the band. I'm sure they have fans who still go and see them, right? Like, they've been seeing them for years and years, so that's a big event for them, but there's a kind of shit hipster kind of element to it, or whatever they're called these days. People are just like, hey, let's go and see the Stones, and they're just like, all right, what are the ones to this again?
You gotta have a lot of disposable income though to go see them. If you're
right, it's I don't know how many shows they're playing this year, if they're playing at all, but I imagine they're all kind of stadium shows or at least big arenas, and it's just going through the motions. I would say I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know if that denigrates from. There is a time when to stop, and I think it's coming. It should come soon.
But you could
don't need
say that
anymore,
You could say the
Rage
same thing
against the dying of the light, Craig.
You could say the same thing for Paul and Ringo, who are still out there. You know,
I got no. If they enjoy it,
Yeah, I mean, you're
they
right.
can do what they want.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
they've earned the right. They've earned the right to do that. I think, and if we talk about rock and roll royalty or what's to that effect, I would say. But yeah, there comes a point when you're just like, all right, this is.
But
put it to the edge,
you know, I think they deserve credit, and Paul too. But they deserve credit for still trying to create new music, right? Like they came out with that album
Hackney-
last year, whatever.
Hackney
Hackney
Stones?
Diamonds,
Hackney
Diamonds, yeah, which is slang for broken window or windshields. But you know, there was a song or two on that I quite liked. Bite My Head Off. That was pretty
the
good.
first single from it was quite good. Kind of cool video as well.
Yeah.
They're not without merit in that sense, but there comes a point when you're like, all right, let's farewell tour, like the Who have done again and again and again,
Yes.
and then we'll wrap it up, kind of thing. But the legacy of both bands, I think, the Beatles are probably. Have you ever met anyone that really says they hate the Beatles?
Yes.
Question to the group.
Yeah.
I mean, are they just doing that to be kind of contrarian? You know, just like
I felt that, but there were some people during when the Get Back movie came out. I saw it was actually Bad Faith podcast, Tom. I don't know why they were talking about it. None of the people on the panel were musicians, but they were like, yeah, the Beatles, they're always trying to the mainstream's always trying to shove their music down our throats. I mean, what about Iggy Pop and the Stooges? They were much more advanced than the Beatles in 19 whatever. It's like, okay. Yeah, it's like, did you see this documentary, how Paul created this song out of nothing? Like he conjured this song into existence right before your eyes. It's pretty amazing. Watch it again.
It's cool to say again the Stooges were, but we had that conversation a couple of weeks ago.
Right. Yeah.
It's not even apples and oranges, man, we're comparing here. So, you know, yeah. Tom or Hania, have you had anyone's speak ill of them? Right? They're just like they're overrated.
A lot of
Beatles just
people
have
say
some
that
kind
actually.
of miraculous songwriting quality for me, where just
The
so
early
many
stuff, there's a lot of
songs that-
filler on there, right? A lot of these bands starting out in the 60s,
Yeah.
there's a lot of just kind of filler.
That's
We get
true.
an album, we'll get 2 days to record it, let's go in, here's a bunch of covers as well, and just get it done. And you're like, all right.
What do you think it is about the Beatles that what do the Beatles do better? I mean, I think they are the best.
Well,
Okay. But I mean, what is it about them?
it's those four individuals. They just had the right balance of Lennon and McCartney, and then you've got the guitarist who also writes songs occasionally, and then you've got Ringo bringing his X Factor element to the mix. You know.
But I mean, would you
They
see
were
their songwriting as generally superior?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Is that the
they
main thing?
they
Because that seems like it would be to me.
yes,
something-
yeah, it is. But also their musicianship, even though it's not like maybe they're not technically virtuosos, although maybe Paul is. They're solid, right? They play well together. They do what needs to be done for the song. I mean, George is not like shredding
Wiggly, right?
Yeah, but he always plays what's necessary for the song. Even something as late as like what they did for the Beatles anthology, Real Love. It's this. They had this old tape of John demoing this song called Real Love. They took it into the studio with Jeff Lynne, and then they all added their parts. And George has this solo. I mean, he just plays a few notes, but it makes me want to cry. It's like the most beautiful thing you can imagine in those 4 bars or whatever, right? It's just perfect. It just fits perfectly. And it's not like it's not technically so amazing. Like you could figure out how to play it, but the note choice and the tone and just the feeling is right, you know.
Without sounding classist, like, you know, you might be able to like trace a lot of people's musical genius from their, you know, musical DNA. Their parents were whatever virtuosos, or
I think
they
McCartney had a piano at home, or his parents did.
So I'm just wondering, yeah, like what, or some other artists will have like incredible strife that they had to overcome. You know, what do you think it is that managed to make this like level of excellence from these guys?
Well, Lemmy of Motorhead pointed out that, you know, people have it backwards. Like everyone thinks the Stones are the hard men and the Beatles are the cute little mop tops. Actually, it's the reverse. The Beatles were the ones who came up out of
working class
Liverpool, right? Whereas the Stones are suburban London kids. Yeah.
Not even London.
So they actually had a cushier, more comfortable
and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah. I mean, Lennon did too, to be fair, but it was
maybe the exception rather than the rule, though.
Yeah, it was a rougher upbringing. I mean, he talks about suburban skies and Penny Lane, so maybe they were kind of like on the outskirts, but they, you know, they like really like all of these British boomer bands, you know, they were hungry. Like England was desolated after World War II, unlike the States, right? And so they grew up in this squalor, and they music was their way out. So they had incredible drive and ambition to be famous, to get rich, to get girls, you know, to be excellent. There was that motivation for all of these British groups that we're talking about, I think. Similar to, you know, maybe hip hop artists in the States, right? Like to rise above the misery and strife, as you say. Like they were hungry for that. So that's something to
They weren't happy with the Chip Butties. Chip Butty? Is that how you say it?
Kind of.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Should we vote?
You can say what you like about England. I'm fine, man.
No, I like a Chip Butty. I'm just thinking, what
it's a chip
like
butty.
A butty?
So the T's a bit not as a butty.
Chip Butty.
A butty. Yeah.
Do you know what that is, Mark?
I thought you were saying chapati.
Yeah, me too.
That would
Some
be good
Indian
too.
food.
Chip Butty is just like a sandwich, or like you just put French fries in a bread.
We don't have French fries. You're making
Chips.
this worse.
I'm trying to make it. I'm trying to markify it here.
No, I get chips, but what's the other part?
Just bread.
Two bits of bread, some butter.
No, what's it called? Butty?
Chip Butty.
Yeah.
Like
So
butthole?
TTY.
It's like bread, butter, and then chips on it.
Okay. Sorry, I asked.
A chip butty.
Chip Butty.
Yeah.
Why are you listening to the Beatles?
Exactly.
Well, I mean, all right. So we're done with the arguments.
I think
this
we
is
should
tough.
move on because we're at plus 2 hours.
All right. Okay.
So
I'm good to
Even my
go.
dog's sleeping now, so we must be kind of rambling on a bit. You know? He's
all
giving
right.
up.
No one's listening anyway.
Chester's
Fine.
just like, all right, I'm done, man. You wake me up when you're done. Oh, there's rumbling under the table.
Okay. We need some music. Should I go to the soundboard?
yeah.
Do you have a kind of like a quirky kind of backdrop thing? You know,
Let's see what we got
nice
here.
little kind of jazzy thing.
Some Tropicalia, yeah.
Nope, nothing like that.
Is it just cheese? You got it with cheese? Oh, it's cheese.
Nope. Okay. Enough. All right, we're ready.
Ready?
Yep.
40-60 Stones Beatles.
Okay.
That's where I am now. If you ask me 20, 30 years ago, it would be more lopsided, but yeah.
As you go further into the dirty old man world.
Yeah, you do appreciate the Stones more, yeah. That's true. When you lose more of your innocence.
It's all about the
When
riff
you
as well, right?
sympathize more with the devil. Okay. Who's
I guess I'm
next?
innocent as a cherub, but I'm going 95 Beatles,
Damn.
5 Stones.
Damn!
It's just not for me. I don't know. I
That's fine.
gave them a try.
That's fine. That's fine.
And it's just the Beatles is just,
That's
the
it.
Beatles.
There you go.
Some things is just dead.
Okay.
Craig?
I'm the same as Mark. I'm going 60 Beatles, 40 Stones.
Look at that.
And I'm Beatles 77, Stones 23.
Did you do the math?
They add up, yeah. I'm trying to show off, but I can do more than just rounds of 5,
Okay. Well, looks like the Beatles win. That's an
All right.
unfortunate loss for the Stones, but
Do you have a round of applause there in the background, Mark? And
let me.
your board of effects.
Let's see. That's probably going to get cut out. That goes on for like 30 seconds, so I'll stop it. All right.
So
by process of elimination, our final 2 quarterfinalists are Led Zeppelin and The Who.
Interesting. Craig, start us off.
I'm going to go a bit top. Do you know the game Top Trumps? It's not a Trump thing, but Top Trumps.
I've heard of it, but I don't know.
So you have categories. So like when I was a kid, you would get all these cards, Top Trumps. So say it would be like tanks. I grew up in the 70s, right? So it would be like tanks and footballers and all of this kind of sports cars, right? And it would list the price, value, and the engine size, or all of the kind of the vitals, as we used that earlier, right? So I'm going to go that style for this matchup here, like 1v1 in a Top Trump way.
Okay.
So if we take the front man, Robert Plant for Zeppelin and Roger Daltrey for The Who. Roger Daltrey's a pretty good front man. He's enigmatic. He's got a great voice. I also think he's a bit of he's a bit one-dimensional in many ways. That's a bit of a blessing and a curse, I would say. He leads the band. Well, he still does, so I can use that. He still leads the band in a kind of really, he's the singer. He's the main man in the band. If we take I'll keep it short, right? So we get the guitar players, Jimmy Page, Pete Townsend, 2 very different styles, completely different styles, really different personalities, really different approaches to the guitar, both quite meticulous. We used that word earlier, but yeah, eccentric, meticulous, obsessed. I don't know. There's lots of ways to describe both of them, but for me personally, I prefer Jimmy Page's approach to the guitar and the way he plays. Not Pete Townsend. Yeah, I get it, but I think there's more depth and nuance, and it's just there's more to Jimmy Page's guitar playing, even outside the Led Zeppelin, like the stuff he did before, his session work and things like that. I'll save the best till last, man. Right? So bass players, I've given them 50-50. I think John Entwistle's a much underrated bass player. John Paul Jones has a lot of strings to his bow. He's produced numerous bands in the last, I don't know the last one he did, but he did a band I really like called The Mission. He did their first or second big studio album, and multi-instrumentalist. He's kind of the quiet man of the band, as it were. He's kind of like, everyone's just like, oh, and he's there and he's brilliant. Entwistle, I would say, is pretty similar in, slightly different way. Drummers, all right, here we go. So I don't like Keith Moon. I don't really like the way he plays. It's not bad. I just don't like it. Right? I'm just like, it's kind of, it's the same, it's the same again. And all right, I get that's his shtick, that's his thing, that's what he does. That's the Keith Moon element to it, but and it's fine, right? It's not terrible. It's just I'm like, if I compare it to John Bonham, I'm like, well, here we are. Here's the winner right here. So I think from a sonic perspective, like the sound of John Bonham is just magnificent. Right, those Led Zeppelin records turned up really loud. You're just like, it's just like this massive explosion. This phenomenal noise. And I think he was a bit more jazz influenced and big band influence. He had a lot of influences outside rock and stuff. So you hear a lot of that in his playing as well. And I think as Mark will tell you, or you probably know this anyway, if you don't have a good drummer, you don't really have a good band. So there we go. That's the kind of thing. That's what makes or breaks a lot of bands. There we go. That's my top trumps. I'll keep it short.
Well, it's interesting that you focused on the band members, the individual band members, and had these matchups. Of course, there's also songwriting, discography, showmanship, a lot of other things. But let's just deal with the matchups, because it is 4-4. Like the Beatles, even though the Who carried on after Moon passed, really the classic lineup is what we're talking about.
I prefer Kenny Jones as a drummer to Keith.
I think you can make an argument for that, right? But let's consider those matchups now with singers. So did you lean towards Plant over? Yeah. Okay, I thought that's what you were saying. I will point out that probably there would be no Led Zeppelin without the Who, because that was like the template that Jimmy had in mind when he was putting together the band. I think he was looking for like a Daltrey type singer, and you can argue that's what Plant is. Now maybe he's a better Daltrey type singer than Daltrey himself. I think that's fair to say. You can make that argument, but like the singer with the open shirt and the the giving of his body to the audience and the long flowing mane, like Plant is in a way a Roger Daltrey imitator. I just want to note that. And
he was really dynamic at that time as well. I mean, it was you had the guys in suits, the Beatles or Jerry and the Pacemakers or whoever it was, the Searchers or whoever it was, all that at the charts at the time, and then the Who just came in and kind of ripped all that up, and they were just like in your face.
Yeah, and he's like stuttering through My Generation. That's kind of like an interesting vocal
like anti-front
innovation.
I mean, John Lydon and a lot of punk musicians have taken from Roger Daltrey. Obviously.
Yeah, they're proto-punk for sure. Sex Pistols even covered Substitute.
You know who Terry Reid
on
is?
record.
Have you heard of Terry Reid?
Terry Reid, yeah. Yes.
So originally Jimmy Page had him in mind, alright. I think he even asked him to join the band. If you have a look for Terry Reid's solo stuff, he played, I think, at the first Glastonbury gig as well. I don't know if that's online anymore, but he's great. Really fine singer, great guitar player as well. One of those guys who kind of slipped under the radar kind of thing. Any thoughts, Tom? Preferences on frontmen?
No, I don't think this is my realm to speak.
Okay, well let us babble on then. I just want to get through this list. I mean, all right. So I would also just say, like, Led Zeppelin benefited from the previous generation of artists, even though they're not far apart in years. Like the Who sort of established that template of the four musicians with the front man and the guitarist and the rhythm section, right? So I think Jimmy had been thinking about this for a long time while doing all those studio sessions and being in the Yardbirds and so on. He knew what he wanted, and so he was able to start doing what he wanted from the jump. Whereas the Who, along with the Stones and Beatles, had to figure shit out on the fly, right? So maybe that should be a factor in this discussion, maybe not. I think it should, personally. All right, so let's talk about guitarists. As I say, like, I can't imagine a more exciting guitarist to watch live than Townsend. Like, other than, as I say, Hendrix, right? Like Hendrix and then Townsend live. Like, even if he's just windmilling power chords, it's pretty fucking exciting. That doesn't mean he's better or whatever, but something to keep in mind. Jimmy, more eclectic, I guess, more diverse, but also a thief, you know, stealing a lot of people's licks, but I don't necessarily hold that against him because he made all of it his own. The bass players, I mean, like you say, they're literally the quiet ones, you know. Entwistle called himself the quiet one, or there's a song called the quiet one, and that's John Paul Jones as well. And multi-instrumentalist John Paul Jones, or sorry, Entwistle was also a French horn player of all things, and he did a lot of horn arrangements for them, just as J.P. Jones would do like string arrangements for Zeppelin, as well as playing these amazing keyboard passages. But I agree with you in terms of the drummers. Bonham is just, yeah. I mean, I like Keith Moon. I think he was a good drummer for the Who. You know, the Wild Man. Like, he's probably the prototype for the whole. His whole shtick. Yeah, he's probably the prototype for the Muppet character Animal. You know, the madman behind the drum kit. So Moon the Loon, right? Like, he's original in that sense. But musically, yeah, you got to go with Bonham, I think. So those are the members of the band. What about those other aspects, though? Songwriting, discography, longevity, both good and bad aspects of that. I mean, what do we have to say about songwriting? Let's start with that. On the one hand, Pete Townsend is the great conceptual songwriter, and, you know.
Well, you and I did the podcast together about Guitar and Pen, right? The Who track, now that I come back to my memory. And we talked about Townsend being felt disrespected or never spoke of in the same sentences as the other great songwriters of his time, or you. I think that's what you were saying. Correct me if I'm wrong. And maybe that's true to some respects, you know. So there's, for whatever reason, Pete Townsend's never really caught on as a great songwriter. I don't know how to quantify that, why. But if you ask someone who's a better songwriter, Plant Page or
Townsend.
Right. Townsend, Daltrey. I mean, you know, we're getting into kind of...
Well, Daltrey just sings whatever Pete writes. I think he's got one credit. I can't explain. They gave Daltrey one little credit. It's always Pete, you know. For me, if the question is for me, that's really difficult to say. Like, Zeppelin's songwriting doesn't really take off, in my opinion, until Led Zeppelin 3. That's when they really, you know, become original, not just recycling old blues classics and ripping off other people's shit. They continued to rip people off, but, you know, everyone does that. So it's hard to say. I think Townsend, for me, maybe for sentimental reasons, because I discovered the Who before Zeppelin, he would get the slight edge in that matchup for me. I'm sensing it's the other way around for you, Page and Plant.
I don't think there's a lot of drama or theatre in Townsend's playing once you go over the windmills. That's it, right? I'm kind of like...
No, songwriting.
Okay.
Page and Plant versus Townsend.
I think it would have been... it's a very hypothetical question, of course, because Zeppelin stopped in 1980, but it would have been interesting to see where they would have went, how long it would have lasted. I mean, Page and Plant did an album together. Was it just called Page and Plant?
I think so.
And Jimmy's tried to bring it back from the dead many, many times in different... I think he did a thing with David Coverdale.
Yep.
Page and Coverdale, right? So yeah, I mean, it goes on and on. Celebration Day, Mothership. He keeps going back to the well time and time again. You can tell this is his baby. He just won't let it go. And I think Jimmy Page is also 80, late 70s anyway. Must be 80.
Yep. Right around there. All right. Well, let's hear from the youngsters. Just impressions. We know you're not nerding out like we are, but just impressions. You've been listening to both of them, so tell us.
Go ahead, Hania.
I enjoy both of them for different reasons, but I know Led Zeppelin much less. I've listened to them much less. The Who has, for me, so many songs that are like catchy. They seem to be. It's for me. It's a different aesthetic. Like the Who, it seems more produced, more like poppy. But again, I'm not really sure if that reflects on the artists. I was wondering if you wanted to say a quick comment, like which group do you think is more influential now? Who is like cited more by other musicians?
Mark?
I mean, Pearl Jam loves the Who.
Yeah, they cover
Pearl Jam.
They do a lot of what do you call it? Covers at their shows, right? They
yes,
always do
and
an encore with Baba O'Reilly or something like that.
Yeah, and Eddie Vedder is a big, Pete Townsend. I think they're personal friends, and he is a great admirer. The Ramones, interestingly, loved the Who. I don't remember which one, Johnny or Joey. I think it was Joey who said, Pete Townsend was his favorite artist of all time. But then, every hard rock band has been influenced by Zeppelin. Every metal, doom metal, hard rock.
Have you ever heard Greta Van Fleet?
Yes, right.
So go listen to them, and you'll.
Yes,
it's quite something.
Yeah, pretty successful imitation, but it is an imitation. And also, I think I mentioned this before. A lot of John Bonham's beats have been sampled by hip hop artists, and we also know that Jimmy collaborated with who? Diddy. So yeah, that happened, for better or for worse. But
that was one of my first exposures was "Come with Me." Down.
Should we use words like exposure so when we're talking about certain characters? I don't know. Being exposed.
Yeah, exposure. Yeah, careful with your language there. Don't expose yourself.
If you ask guitar players, that's an interesting point what Mark makes as well. If you ask certain types of guitar players, you just people or guys at work, or people of that type, or you're in a band with them, they get quite guitar players that are kind of. They always say the drummer's a weird one in the band, but it's completely wrong. It's the guitar players. The guitar players will never tell another guitar player what pedals they use or what's they're just arseholes, right? Basically, they don't tell you shit. They're just like, drummers are like, oh yeah, you need sticks, all right, borrow mine. Or drummers don't really care. Guitar players, complete nightmare. So I think when you get into the realm of asking guitar players who their favorite is, a lot of them are influenced by Page and that kind of the big sound and that kind of thing.
I think so.
From maybe from a theatrical performance point of view, you can see elements of Pete Townsend and a lot of people's playing grunge. A lot of grunge players probably like this. Mark was saying about Pearl Jam.
Well, I mean, I'm going to have to say that Pete is also a virtuoso. Even, I mean, he is known as a rhythm guitarist, but he plays some amazing leads. When he just stretches out and rips, I think he's as good as anyone, you know. Jimmy, he's different. He's a different player, maybe more versatile, but also Jimmy's also very sloppy. That's something that
makes it. I think that's what makes a difference.
Yeah,
he's a little bit off.
Yeah, he's not a fluid player. I think that's part of the charm. You know, I don't mind that. I like that messiness, but some people don't. They want something more fluid.
Has anyone seen the movie It Might Get Loud?
Yep. I was just thinking about that.
If you're interested in nerdy guitar things, it's Jack. Sounds like I'm going to set up a joke. It's Jack White, The Edge, and Jimmy Page.
Odd man out there.
Right? It's all about how they come up with their songs. So it's just like three of them in a kind of warehouse somewhere, just talking about.
Yeah, and Jimmy launches into Kashmir, and
he just says the two of them are just like mesmerized. The two of them are just sitting there like kind of.
But at the same time, he's not like completely in tune. You know, it's kind of sloppy, but it sounds great. You know, I mean, it's like the Dylan
That's what
factor.
It sounds like, you know,
it's the Dylan factor. You're going to argue this is a force of nature, right? You don't say, oh, the mountain range is kind of uneven there. That's what you get. You know.
I'd never seen a double neck, or maybe the first double neck guitar I'd ever seen in a film footage or something was Jimmy Page, and you're just like, what is that? But this is just like a thing of sorcery or something. I mean,
and he plays with the
violin
bow, the violin bow. Yeah, this is going to be a tough one. I didn't hear Hania gave us her impressions. What do you say? There can only be one.
My very crude analysis or that's impression of both bands, very crude. Led Zeppelin are a bit too like stadium sounding for me. Like I kind of think, but I will say like my opinion is slightly revised from listening to the album that you guys suggested.
The song remains the same.
Physical Graffiti.
Physical Graffiti, which I was just felt a bit more raw. So I prefer like a rawer sound than like I'm not really so into like epic sounding music, you know, if that makes sense. I'm not, and or the things that come after that. Like I'm not into metal or like really big like yo. That's not really my sound. So and the Who. Yeah, I don't know them well, but they sound like there's some cool songs, like good individual songwriting that's like quirky and
short.
As far as
I mean, they're kind of radio.
Yeah,
maybe not radio friendly at the time, but they've got that kind of edge to them. You know, here's a 3-minute song, and it's here we go.
So if I was going to explore either catalog at this point, the Who would probably edge it, but at the same time, as Physical Graffiti was impressive, so I don't know. I'm eager to vote.
I mean, one other thing that comes to mind is lyrics, right? Like lyrically, especially with the early stuff, Led Zeppelin, I mean, if you read the lyrics on the page, it's like, okay. Whereas
I don't think anyone was really paying attention though, Mark. It wasn't until they really
until Led Zeppelin
developed their sound, I would say, until they
Yeah, well, so that's something keep in mind, I would
Can I
say,
ask Mark
like,
one question before we vote?
yeah.
Stairway to Heaven. Give me give me your thoughts. Because if they don't know it much, they might know that. What do you think about it?
I mean, I think it's pretty clear that there was conscious or subconscious influence on the opening bit. You know, there's that Spirit song, which there definitely is a similar chord progression at the beginning. But I could believe that it was subconscious influence, not like conscious theft. And even if it was, I think they made it their own. And again, that's only one part of the song, right? Like it's only the introductory part. It's such an intricate, complex composition. There's so much happening with dynamics, and the solo is fantastic.
I was going to say that's my favorite bit of the song. The solo is just sublime. You know, it's take
it
all
is.
the other stuff out and just that.
Yeah,
however many bars, it's fantastic.
and lyrically, it's also a high point. You know, along with maybe Kashmir, I would say in the Led Zepp discography. You know, it's one of their lyrical.
The way it's sung as
high
well.
points.
I mean, there's a lot of kind of
Yep.
dynamics. And
It's
vocals.
a masterpiece for sure. But in terms of high concept and art rock values, I think you have to give the edge to the Who over Led Zepp. Like with some exceptions. I always think of like T for One from Presence. That's such a beautiful song in every way, not just instrumentally, but the lyrical conception. A minute seems like a lifetime when I feel this way. There's something quite affecting about that.
I think it's fair to say you can like both bands. You might
It's
just,
difficult.
You might just edge one out over the other, right? I think that's where we are.
I know how this is going to go because of the youngsters, but it'll be interesting to add it up.
Have you not got another place to be, youngsters, at this time on a Saturday night?
I'm learning.
All right.
Who's going to take the first vote?
All right, give me a second to analyze all your arguments.
Yeah.
When the levee breaks, we forgot to mention that as well, right? Oh, you mentioned a little bit about sampling, but it's a classic.
Right.
Okay, happy
Of
to
course,
start.
not theirs. That's also a kind of theft, but okay. Yeah, Hania, what you got?
I'm going Led Zeppelin 40 and the Who 60. The Who, it's just like that art rock thing is like very much more relatable for me, but I'm really excited to explore Led Zeppelin's catalog more.
She's excited.
Like, it rocks out. Like it's hard.
Absolutely.
It's heavy.
It's like, turn it up.
Yeah.
I'm very close. I'm also going to go the Who 63. So 63-37.
What's that? You're so quirky. Mark.
Well, I'm kind of a punk. I went 50-50.
Oh.
So it's down to you, Craig.
I haven't.
How big is the spread?
Are you really? You're really 50-50 exactly.
Yes. I mean,
That's bold.
I really have to say, I mean, in terms of like from the beginning of my, interest in this kind of music to now, I really think it's balanced like that. At this point, I don't know. That's all I want to say about it.
I'm 70 Zepp and 30 the Who.
70 Zepp, 30 Who. Okay.
This is the first one where we actually have to do math, I think.
I think we do.
Yeah,
All right, so
seven in there, right? So
let's get out the old calculator here.
Oh, it's exciting.
Yeah, ADC over there.
Calculator. All right, for Zep, we've got 70 plus 50 plus 40 plus 37. Who came up with that? 197 for Zep. Okay. Then for the Who, we got 30 plus 50 plus 60 plus 63. 203. Slight edge to the Who.
Very slight, yeah.
That's how it works.
All right.
Even if
So-
I had done what I originally considered, 51 Led Zepp, 49 The Who, it still would have been The
Not
Who.
enough.
So, yeah.
And thanks for joining us on Texting. We'll see you next episode for the semifinals. That's right.
Oh, really?
No, I don't know. We actually could probably. It depends how long we want to go, but
Please, let's finish.
Yeah.
finish means stop. Really?
No, let's wrap
Finish
let's
it.
Yes. Yeah.
Finish
Finish
the
it.
bracket.
We're gonna finish
Pick
the bracket.
the winner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's
All right.
Get it-
So
get it
I
done.
think the first round. Hopefully, that gave us the chance to expound on most of our
Yeah.
prominent arguments. So
Yeah. let's
semifinal
just vote.
one. Well, maybe if somebody wants to make it quick.
Okay,
argument.
all right.
Okay. We've
Now
got
just let
semifinal one.
ChatGPT decide.
Quick. That's
Yeah.
funny. Quick
Prince
argument.
versus
That's funny.
Bob Dylan.
Can you show the bracket like on the screen?
Yeah, I can.
Or
Let me get into my share mode. All right.
One thing we haven't really talked about, just as Tom's getting that thing up on the screen, is how music makes you, not just how music makes you feel, but what kind of mood you're in when you listen to music, and how these kind of artists change that, right? Because there'll be days when you listen to Dylan and you think, "Oh, this is great," right? You're just kind of in your little bubble, and then there's other days when you're dancing about the kitchen making dinner to Prince, right? It's kind of, but you might,
Yeah.
For sure. That's the thing.
Mhm.
I'm rarely in those spaces like for some Dylan. And that's just maybe because I'm too impatient, but I'm usually like wanting charged music to kind of either I'm at the gym or I'm like trying to like get going in the morning or yeah. I feel like I'd have to be retired to listen to Dylan or something.
Dylan, I've been like wanting to feel that reflectiveness lately, and that's done
That's
it for
cool.
me. It's
Yeah.
did you say retired or retarded?
Retired.
Okay.
All right, here's our quarterfinals. You can see here Prince and Bob Dylan on the left side and the Beatles and the Who. So Prince versus Dylan, two solo artists. So in some way that's appropriate, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
We're
well,
gonna
it's Prince
keep it-
in the Revolution, or Prince in the New Power Generation, or
I guess so, but Dylan's got backing bands too, right? So
well, yeah, the band, right?
yeah, he just calls them the band. Are we gonna vote, or does anyone want to say something?
I think we can vote.
All right, this will be more interesting if we do it without the arguments. We don't know what people are gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
Are we doing numbers again?
Yeah, let's keep the same format.
Oh, this is harder,
Yeah,
right?
this is
This one
harder,
is
yeah.
harder.
Okay, I'm ready when you guys are.
Okay.
ready.
I'm
Craig.
ready. Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. You're first.
I was hoping you weren't going to say that. So the inner funk in me, right, is kind of
Oh shit!
is trying to get out in this one, but Dylan takes it 60-40.
Mm-hmm. All right. I went 70-30 Dylan Prince, but 60-40 is very reasonable, and even the reverse of that is totally
Right,
reasonable.
yeah, I was going to
This
say
is such a. This is just me. I'm just more like influenced by Dylan overall, but I mean, Prince is an indisputable genius in every way for all the reasons we mentioned. All right, who's next?
Okay, I've got Prince on 34,
Damn.
which gives Dylan 66.
Actually, that's more than I gave him, but I was going to say that's disrespectful.
I guess I'm the only one that gave Prince the win, so I went Prince 55, Bob Dylan 45.
Good for you. Good for
Yeah.
you. Someone needed to. Someone
Yeah,
needed
put
to
some
do that.
respect
It's
on your name, on his name.
I don't like all this talk about respect. I'm like, oh,
It's just a funny
everywhere.
expression I like. Put some respect on his name. That's like what the
well.
kids are saying these days for
Right.
football players and stuff. All right, let me try to. I think I have to close the window to do the final thing. So if you guys don't mind, we'll know that
Okay.
that Dylan has taken his spot in the final.
Mhm.
All right.
All right, so Beatles versus the Who.
Do
Anybody
we
wanna
even
say
need to
anything?
vote?
I'll go first. 70 Beatles, 30 Who.
You've already got it. Okay. Yeah, we don't need to vote.
What, really?
Or do
Oh,
we?
well, we've done it every other
Yeah.
time.
All right, well, then give me
Yeah,
a second
okay.
then. Give me a second.
Okay. Okay, I'm the Beatles 80, Who 20.
I did 80-20 as well.
And I'll go 90-10.
Woo!
And I think I can.
All right.
This was kind of
Beatles and
predictable.
Dylan.
I feel like
Not really, man.
No.
Bowie should have been here somewhere.
it's kind of for me. It's kind of
Technically
predictable when you got
speaking, he
two
is-
classic
he
rock
is
guys
mad.
on the show.
Pink Floyd. Yeah, but
Uh.
how many coin flips did we have to go through to get here?
It's
A
true.
lot
A bunch.
of crazy shit happened. But maybe maybe there's some logic to this convoluted system. But what are we going to do now?
End the show.
Beatles,
End the
Dylan.
stream. End the stream, Dave. End the stream. Oh god. There's a Tottenham supporter named Expressions who does these reaction videos, and they've been having a miserable season, So he always ends. He's like, at the end of the game, he's like, "End the stream, Dave." Just as he is so furious with the latest result.
Well, technically speaking, they've had a better season than Arsenal, Tom, right? They
Not
got to
yet.
the-
Let's see.
They got,
If
they got to the final of the.
They did get to the final, but if they lose the final, I'm not going to give them that. If they win, then it's
you got to be in it to
crunchy.
win it, right? That's what they say.
Yeah, but let's see. I can't believe I'm going to support United, but I think I have to.
Two cheeks of the same arse, then, right?
Yes.
I like that expression.
All right. Anyone going to make arguments, or are we just going to vote?
I think we can vote.
Oh, maybe a little summary.
If anybody wants to speak up for Dylan, I think that now is your chance.
Oh, that's how it's going.
That's
huh?
how it's going down, baby.
It sounds like
Okay.
it's rigged if you say it that way.
Yeah, it does.
Well, I'm saying I'm coming out of the closet as I'm a likely Beatles voter.
Okay. I'm
So,
going to change my vote.
Just saying, right?
I already wrote something down. Now I'm going to change it.
So you're gonna have to try to
Actually,
squeeze
I'm
a
not.
few Dylan points.
I can't be
Out of me.
moved. I'm a person of integrity. I'm honest.
I want to listen to the candidates.
Well, Mark earlier was talking about songwriting and musicianship. So even if we take those, maybe take songwriting first, if I could say that. I mean, would anyone argue that Bob Dylan is arguably one of the greatest modern day songwriters there's ever been?
For me, it's not. I mean, I don't have.
Do you think it's a bit like the Beatles argument we had earlier, or discussion with earlier, where he's a bit overrated in this aspect? Then there is quality there, but there's a lot of. It's like the Shawshank Redemption, right? There's a lot of Shawshank before you get to the redemption part of it. It's a bit like some people for Dylan. I'm just putting that out there.
It's for me. It seems like the thing that I don't know. The songs don't seem as uniquely memorable as Beatles songs. It feels like a lot of times
He doesn't have a hook, right?
he
Very
sometimes does, right?
Sometimes, but I mean, it's like, you can.
Yeah, so I feel like so much emphasis is on the lyrics, and I respect the lyrics, but I don't know if you think about a song, just the way that Beatles songs will just like capture your attention. I mean, they're so. I don't know, a song like Eleanor Rigby is coming to mind, or even like Taxman, just because I've been listening to Revolver, I guess. But and the diversity of the Beatles catalog, I don't know. It's just
the pen is mightier than the guitar.
Is it?
Well, that was one of the conclusions we drew from our Morrissey episode, Steve and I,
right,
when we listened to "You Are the Quarry."
But by guitar, you're including the whole musical side?
Yeah, I mean, those are
because that's crazy, right? For me, like that's
synecdoches.
That's
for
definitely
music
like the opposite.
Lyrics and music.
Like,
yeah, sure. Opposite. That's fine.
No, but I'm saying, is it legitimately for you? Do you think that lyrics are more important?
That's an oversimplification. I mean, I think they're important, yes, and there has to be some musicality, right? But I don't know. Again,
I mean, I could listen to amazing music with shit lyrics, but I wouldn't listen to the opposite.
Right. I feel you. I possibly would, right? Like I guess another example would be the Roger Waters Dark Side Redux, right? Like musically, that's not so fantastic, but lyrically, it's pretty interesting.
But then you can just read poetry,
No, the music has its place. It does. It contributes something to it. I mean, Craig actually preferred that to the latest David Gilmour album. So, in that sense, the pen was mightier than the guitar.
What are their opinions on each other, these two artists?
I saw a quote recently, like Paul played Dylan before it was released. He played Tomorrow Never Knows by or from Revolver, the psychedelic track. Yeah. And Dylan said, "Oh, I get it. You're trying not to be cute anymore." So he was dismissive of them, I think, early on, probably out of jealousy to some extent. Later, he had a much more reasonable assessment. He said of Paul, like he openly expressed envy. He said, "I wish the guy would stop. He's a great singer. He's a great songwriter. He's got impeccable rhythm. He's making me look bad."
What about the other way around? What about the Beatles on Dylan?
Oh, he was one of their primary influences. There would be no Beatles without Dylan.
But I mean, how effusive was their praise? Was it like extreme? Was it like their favorite artist or
one of them? Yeah, along with Motown artists, it was Dylan. Yeah.
Did they attend each other's shows at all? Do you know?
They got high together at the White House.
Who doesn't these days, right?
Yeah. So. No, but tell me everything that you know about that particular dynamic.
Supposedly, one of Dylan in the late 60s, around the time of the motorcycle accident, Dylan considered quitting music because he just didn't feel like he could match up with the Beatles.
Interesting.
I've read that.
Because such different subject matter in a way,
Yeah, I think that was, just whatever, a period of self-doubt. But then, look at the longevity. Of course, Paul and Ringo are still around, but that's kind of a different thing.
You might call them contemporaries at the time, like, because that whole 60s generation, there was so much going on artistically, creatively, socially.
I feel like Dylan, though, is kind of their elder in a way. He kind of started at least recording before them. Not much, not, basically a year at the most. But
I'm just looking up. So Bob Dylan was born in 1941. John Lennon was born in 1940.
40, yeah.
Mm.
Wow.
The day
Yep.
breaks, the mind aches.
I mean, who's to say what John Lennon would have went on to become as an artist? Since he passed away, that's a whole avenue that will never be known, right? But it's an interesting talking point, I think.
I will say, for me, like, Paul McCartney is kind of corny I'm sorry to say that. I hope I'm not triggering anybody, but like, as a pop culture figure, you'd wish he's definitely feels like he just kind of took on that whole like Sir Paul, like,
As
and
did Mick,
Yeah.
as did Elton.
Yeah.
Well, I
these
mean,
are negatives. And
yeah.
Paul's waving a fucking Ukraine flag publicly. That's not so attractive. And he, like, live, he's definitely lost a step or two or 10. But I saw him live 2003 or 4, and again, that's the best show I've ever seen, and it was one of the best nights of my life. It was beautiful.
Would you say in that role of then like rebel artist that Dylan has kind of remained a bit more true?
Absolutely, yeah. But Paul is still doing his thing, and he still does interesting things musically. He did like a collaboration with Youth from Killing Joke.
Mm-hmm.
That was not
Didn't
bad.
Dylan do like some car commercials or something?
He did a Victoria's Secret promo.
Has he done any other big company endorsement stuff? I feel like so. I'm curious about that.
Did Dylan not also sell his publishing rights a couple of years ago?
May have.
I think he did.
Let's expose their character.
I mean, I'm not saying this, but if someone's going to give you 500 million or whatever, I mean, it was an outrageous amount of money, but he's like, yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
I'll pay
that's
for
right.
My grandkids' college.
And thereafter, right? So,
yeah, we can't get too much into that because there are things to criticize on both sides.
Yeah.
Are we ready to vote before
Let's
I fall
vote.
asleep? Yeah.
I forgot Mark is on a different time zone.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We're doing better this time. It's only 2 a.m. Not 3:30.
That's a Saturday night, right? There we go.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm ready. I've been ready for
I'm
a while.
ready.
I didn't change.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna start
Who's
it
first?
off.
Yeah.
Beatles on 74.
I love these.
I keep it real, authentic.
These numbers that are not multiples of 5.
Exactly. Sorry for struggling there, old man. 26 would be the
I'm just too slow to do it, right? So I would have thought of it first.
Yeah, I'm 65 for the Beatles.
Which means 35 Dylan. Just
Good
to
job.
clarify.
Texas education, stand up.
Yeah. Craig?
70 Beatles, 30 Dylan.
Interesting.
Okay. I'm the outlier. And I'm also the punk. 50-50.
Nice.
Get off that fence.
I like the fence.
That's right up
Non-committal.
your ass.
Non-committal. All right, so wow. How revolutionary. The Beatles win our little
6 hours
contest.
later.
Yeah. It took us 6 hours to realize the Beatles are pretty good. Aren't we innovators?
I mean, some people might never reach that to work out the Beatles at the best mark. You know, that's
true.
I'd like
And
to
they
run you
almost
guys
didn't
through
make
this
it.
one,
They almost didn't make it out of the first round, right? Who did they go up against?
but my computer seems to be lagging again.
Okay.
With this, here we go. So I don't know if it's going to show me. So you have a quick chance to do reactions to any shocking matchups here.
Oh, right. Well, what was on that first slide? Oh, okay. Yeah, what's here?
Nothing too crazy here. I feel Fleetwood Mac went out pretty early. Radiohead went down to Michael Jackson, and then this is where Bowie went out to the Roots.
Yeah.
it's like, okay.
Craig. The Roots are.
Let's just say it's contentious, right? We'll leave it there.
Oh, it was the Beatles and Jay-Z. That was.
Yeah, Jay-Z went pretty far though.
Yeah.
Knocked out the.
But how did the youngsters vote on that? Was that a coin flip?
On which?
Beatles versus Jay-Z. Was that
we went
flip?
Beatles. We went Beatles.
You did?
Don't worry, we fell in line.
No, I thought that was a coin flip.
No, I don't think so.
No,
Really?
I would have gone Beatles.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm just looking at this bracket.
Where's Pink Floyd? They went out early. They lost to Black Star, if I remember correctly.
Let's just see here.
Who?
I'm just trying to see. So
Yeah, exactly. That group, that seminal group with one album, that iconic group with one album.
Right.
Okay, let's just look at this bracket really fast. So,
I got a lot of dead air here.
no, because people are looking. So, the Who. I was sad that that Outcast Tom Waits thing. That's a disgrace to me. That was like the most painful. That was our David Bowie, I think. You know, and
where's
in
Pink
a way
Floyd?
very similar artists. You know,
Page before, I think Pink Floyd was.
No, Pink Floyd's coming up on the last page.
Black
Here they
Star,
are, yeah.
right there. Yeah,
Black Star took him out.
Yeah. That was a
I don't even know what that is.
that was a coin flip. That was a coin flip.
And Stevie Wonder and Dylan meeting so early on. That was a tough.
Yes.
Tough.
I mean, we maybe should have done the 100-point system then too, but
anyways,
that's not what we did. We did coin flips.
Well, if we ever do
Gotta
the
live with
rematch,
it now.
we've got something to work from.
I was thinking as we had that early pee break, I was thinking we could do foods next time. You know, it'd be like pizza versus the hamburger, and we'd be giving like these passionate arguments. Or it could be funny. Or colors, green versus red. Just some thoughts, this thing could catch on,
All right, well let's talk about just quickly some artists that deserve honorable mention, like that didn't make even the list of 64. Some glaring omissions.
Well, you know what I can do if we're going to do that is I have this open right now. So
it might be fair to say that in tournament play or competition play like this, or a cup tournament format, not always the favorite wins, but in this case, it's come through in that way. But there's been one or two surprises, you might say, just
Mm.
because of the way, for whatever quirk it was. But I would say if we thought about our last 8 before we recorded the last one, we probably wouldn't be too far from where we ended up.
Yeah. Yeah, there were no artists among the Elite 8 that were out of place, right? Like, you could make an argument for all of them.
And I mean, these are all great artists that we're discussing. I mean, within these
Mhm.
64, we're choosing some absolutely incredible artists. So
Except ZZ Top, right?
yeah, exactly. Trying to see what names I had that didn't get on the list. I had like Smashing Pumpkins. They didn't make it.
Boo-hoo.
Oasis.
Timbaland.
No, Timbaland was.
He
on
was.
this.
He was.
I'm
on
talking
the-
about people that
he
didn't
was-
even get on the discussion.
He was the
Yeah,
shoes
yeah.
guy, right?
A
Yeah.
Tribe Called Quest. Mariah Carey.
Come on.
Rage
on.
Against the Machine. They could have got some love.
Can't have Mariah Carey on a list like this. I'm like, come on.
You're probably right. But Red Hot Chili Peppers. They didn't make it on. Thought they had a shout.
Hmm.
Nas didn't get a shout. Again, I know I'm talking from the hip hop world. Buena Vista Social Club. I feel like Bill Withers, for me, that's.
Oh yes,
Mhm.
yes.
It's kind of interesting.
I wanted Fiona Apple to be discussed. This is my taste, which is very.
Yeah. No,
'cause I had
this is all legit and interesting.
So what
You got
did you? Do you remember when you were making your?
Yes, I
32?
do. You've got Steve Reich on there, which is we made a decision early on that we wouldn't include like classical or like.
I still would have
Yeah.
included him on that criteria.
I guess he could be what pop
Minimalist. electronic.
pop minimalist. Yeah, I guess. Well, from the jazz world, on my original list before I whittled it down, I had, in addition to Sun Ra and Miles Davis, I had Coltrane, of course, and Ornette Coleman, also Charles Mingus.
Mhm.
These are great jazz artists that deserve to be part of this conversation. You could even include like Dave Brubeck.
Hania, was there anybody who came like stuck in your mind that we didn't get to talk about?
Hard to say. Like I had some picks, but
Like Ace of Base, I guess would be up there for you.
Really?
I'm just fucking with.
How about, since we're talking about Nordic groups, how about ABBA?
yeah.
Where are
Yeah.
they?
ABBA, I
There's
mean,
there's a glaring omission, right?
my
Yeah.
partner loves ABBA. Yeah.
Or, there were no country artists. How about Dolly Parton?
My dad would be raging about that, and maybe like Patsy Cline.
There's no Hank Williams.
I think we had
Hank
Kraftwerk.
Hank
that
Williams.
could
Hank Williams. Yeah.
There's no Woody Guthrie.
Woody Guthrie.
Kraftwerk was a good shout. Hania.
Yeah, that's a great show.
I mean, I think in chat, Craig, you mentioned Leadbelly, was it? I talked about Muddy Waters, who, there would be no
Mhm.
Rolling Stones without
Right.
Muddy Waters.
Oh, and
Robert
Nirvana.
There's no
Nirvana,
Nirvana. Yeah.
How did we
Robert
not? Yeah.
Robert Johnson.
Maybe you and I went
Elvis?
invited into
Elvis?
this little club, and maybe that's what it was. We were just the extras, like when they need people that we're the
Break
hired
the
help,
glass.
right? That's
Yeah.
how it works.
We didn't
Yeah,
do
you
too much
didn't-
on the world music front either, which I'm not blaming us for, but
Right.
I wonder
There's no
who-
REM, if that was a thing for
REM.
anyone.
Yep.
Although not really.
I mean, I wonder like which artists
Tom Petty.
Europe, I thought about Tom Petty. Europe would want would insist on I don't know, Germany or France. Who would they? Who's that Jacques guy from France?
Jacques Brel. Jacques
Jacques
Brel.
Brel. Well,
That Jacques guy, bro?
he's Belgian.
Okay, but he's who else?
He sang Amsterdam, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I love that song.
Very
It's amazing.
another influence on Bowie as well.
Sinead
Bowie,
O'Connor.
Well, if you want to go into like kind of pop stroke obscurity, like whatever happened to, but they are any list you look on is they're always there is Scott Walker.
Scott
Stone Temple
Walker,
Pilots,
yeah.
right? Is that Stone Temple Pilots?
No,
No.
Sorry. My bad. I'm sorry. You're right. Scott Walker. Yeah, Joe loves Scott Walker. Okay.
like
Yeah.
there was the Walker brothers, and and then he did like loads of soul albums, but he was. What's a good way to describe him, Mark? He was.
He's kind of a proto art rocker.
mm,
I mean, he influenced Bowie quite a bit.
What about Manulo?
Who?
Manulo.
Menudo.
Manulo.
I
think there
don't
was
know who that is.
some
also.
Mexican.
Yeah, that's Menudo.
Manulo.
I mean, we
Sorry.
we
I shouldn't have-
omitted
Ricky-
a lot of
Ricky Martin's
Motown
band, I think.
and great
Soul
R&B
influence.
artists.
Yes, Aretha Franklin.
Aretha, Smokey Robinson. I mean, Marvin Gaye.
Yes, absolutely.
Um,
Otis Redding.
Etta
Diana
James.
Ross and the Supremes.
We-
Yes, Otis Redding, absolutely.
The other side
Yeah.
of that, we never mentioned Pearl Jam or
Pearl
Soundgarden,
Jam. Yeah, true.
the Smiths.
We had Morrissey,
We
but
had
not the
Morrissey, yeah.
Smiths. Yeah.
Pavarotti.
Yeah,
Yo, P. Dot. We see you.
absolutely.
All right, shall
So-
we? Before we just get to shall we end this?
We should. Yes. Please, let's end this.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been fun.
It has.
Hope it's not the last time that we have Hania and Craig on the pod. That's always nice when you
As
branch
long as
out.
the check's in the mail, then we're good to go.
Absolutely,
That's
Mark.
Oh,
Make sure
yeah.
that you're doing your duties. there.
As soon as I get my check from YouTube, you'll get your cut.
0.00001 cent.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. The next text is who knows what, but this has been part 2 of season 4, episode 6. Episode 7 is TBA.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Until next time, farewell.